Chapter 238. They all dragged their weapons on the ground, turned around, stuck up their butts, and ran quickly to the front of the map fragment. They rushed into the map fragment, not daring to show their faces. The map fragment, which was still glowing, suddenly shrunk and fell to the ground. These skeleton sovereigns ran away without fighting. Under this earth-shattering blade, they had no intention of resisting at all. They turned into turtles in an instant. It was like a turtle hiding in the array diagram. How could this be? This change was completely out of the expectations of all the cultivators. They looked at the map fragment on the ground, dumbfounded. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. However, while they were stunned, Shurtian's blade did not. Countless fiend gods rushed out of the tiger soul blade and arrived in front of the group of cultivators in an instant. Countless blade lights fell. These blade lights contained endless killing power, piercing through the sun and the moon, sweeping across the world. This blade was not only Shurtian's power, but also the power of countless fiend gods. All of them exploded in this blade. One could imagine how powerful the power of this saber was. Its power had completely surpassed the limits of the cultivation world. At this moment, not to mention a dozen core formation cultivators, even nascent soul cultivators or cultivators who were about to ascend to immortality, could only bow their heads and submit to the tiger soul. Its power was unrivaled in the world. Not to mention the dozen or so core formation cultivators in front of them. The skeleton sovereigns in the map fragment suddenly became deserters. Countless fiend gods waved their battle blades and cut all the cultivators in front of them into thousands of pieces in the blink of an eye. They were truly cut into thousands of pieces. They did not even have the time to scream. Not only that, the fiend god's saber chi swept across and landed on the wasteland. Rumble! Those withered bones were like tofu. Amidst a series of rumbling sounds, the area within a radius of 100 miles actually turned into a terrifying bottomless abyss. The bones within were all turned into fine powder. The might of Tiger Soul's saber strike could be said to be capable of destroying the heavens and earth. Even fiend gods would be shocked in front of it. As the blade fell, the heavens and the earth were destroyed. The murderous aura on Shurtian's body seemed to have been completely vented by this blade. His footsteps, which had been moving forward, suddenly stopped. He stood quietly on the wasteland, allowing the countless spirits to rush into his body. His mind was filled with the saber intent of that saber. Countless saber techniques flashed rapidly. Rumble! His consciousness still hadn't returned, and he didn't know what was going on. Countless people wearing purple armor and holding swords rushed out of the purple pool. They crazily swung their swords at the purple pool and slashed at the purple gas, causing the purple gas to churn violently. Then, a large amount of purple chi gushed out and rushed into the purple pool. The purple pool immediately expanded. However, the purple mist at the edge of the purple pool wasn't endless. Back then, the purple pool had expanded once, and when it expanded, it split apart the surrounding purple mist as if it was opening up a world in the primal chaos. The purple chi was the best nourishment. Once it entered the purple pool, it would expand and grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, with the influx of countless spirits and fiend gods, the space in the purple pool was completely filled. Immediately, all the spirits in the purple pool began to rush into the purple pool and attack the purple chi again, wanting to open up a wider space. However, the purple chi had become much thinner after the previous opening. When it was opened again, almost in the blink of an eye, all of the purple chi was shattered and absorbed by the purple pool. In the blink of an eye, the purple pool had devoured all of the purple chi. However, once the purple chi was exhausted, the growth stopped. The surroundings of the purple pool turned into nothingness. Rumble! However, at this moment, a miraculous thing happened. The boundless slaughter chi in his body seemed to have found a place to go, and like a whale sucking in water, it rushed into the king mark. When the slaughter chi entered the king mark, it didn't enter the purple pond, but instead appeared in the air above the purple pond, forming a strange purple cloud above the purple pond. The boundless heaven and earth spiritual chi in the surroundings surged into the king Mark on his forehead like a tidal wave. A huge amount of heaven and earth spirit energy formed a huge spirit energy vortex above Sakra's head. No matter what kind of energy was in this vortex, it was crazily sucked into the vortex and then sent into the king Mark. When it entered the king Mark, it rushed into the purple cloud above the purple pool, just like the slaughter chi. The purple cloud violently expanded and became bigger and bigger. Rumble. Countless purple lightning bolts strangely appeared in the purple cloud. They shuttled back and forth in the purple cloud. Every time they flashed, the purple cloud would violently tumble and quickly shrink. As the purple lightning flashed faster and faster, the purple cloud also quickly gathered in the center and completely shrunk. Suddenly, countless lightning bolts flashed and stimulated the purple cloud to constantly change shape. For a moment, it turned into a purple tiger, then it turned into a strange bird, then it turned into an indescribable object. However, the speed at which the purple cloud changed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it changed thousands of times. Finally, with a terrifying roar, countless lightning bolts tangled together and bound the purple cloud together, forming a 9-layered purple square altar. The altar was divided into 9 layers, like a pyramid. Every time it went up, it would shrink in size. Bang! Once the purple altar was formed, it immediately fell and heavily landed in the center of the purple pool. The bottom of the purple pool and the bottom of the altar touched each other. Suddenly, the altar seemed to grow out of the purple pool. In an instant, the purple pool was connected to the altar. The purple pool also seemed to sublimate. Endless purple divine light burst forth. In the divine light, the souls that had no place to stay because the space in the purple pool was full suddenly seemed to have found a place to return to. They rushed into the altar like swallows returning to their nest. Strangely enough, as soon as they rushed into the altar, an image of soul would appear on the surface of the altar. It was the image of a divine soul. This image was quite small. When a large number of divine souls rushed in, it formed an image, but only the first 3 layers of the altar were filled. Further up, there were still 6 layers of the altar that were empty. This altar could accommodate fighting souls. The appearance of this altar seemed to be a transformation of the purple pool. Then, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth that rushed in also began to gather at the edge of the purple pool. Not long after, it all condensed into purple chi and surrounded the purple pool. The purple king mark that appeared on Dishurkian's forehead became more ancient and mysterious. The purple light within it became more profound. Every time it flashed, it seemed to be able to swallow divine souls. The divine souls in the wasteland rushed into the king mark. It was very fast. This lasted for an entire afternoon, and no more divine souls came out of the wasteland. All of a sudden, there seemed to be a flash of lightning in Sakra's mind. His mind abruptly returned back to reality. His eyes quickly scanned the surroundings and looked at the scenery around him. He could not help but be surprised in his heart. Countless pieces of flesh were scattered on the ground in front of him, cut into countless pieces. It was a scene of thousands of cuts. It could be seen that the number of people who had died here was definitely not small. Could it be that I did this? Wasn't I singing A Man Can Walk just now? Why did I suddenly come here? Something seems to have happened in the middle. He secretly frowned and gently shook his head. Suddenly, countless images suddenly appeared in the depths of his mind. These images were all the scenes and actions that had happened before. The scene that had attracted countless divine souls in the wasteland. The shocking power that had killed more than a dozen cultivators with one stroke. All of these flashed through his mind quickly. That stroke. Dishurkian thought of the powerful stroke that had been released by the tiger's soul. The light in his eyes became abnormally bright. His body trembled a little because the various insights of that stroke were all in his mind. It was a unique battle skill that had been created in that inexplicable state by relying on the opportunity to attract divine souls and various opportunities. The strength of its power could be said to be shocking, and ghosts and gods would weep. However, there was one thing that was a little regretful. The various insights of this stroke when it was used and the key points of the blade technique were all in his mind. However, the reason why that stroke had the power to make ghosts and gods tremble was because it had fused with the killing power of countless divine souls. It was all poured into the tiger soul that could produce such a shocking power. If he were to use it again, it would be impossible for him to have such a strong power now. That adulterous couple is also dead? Shirkan muttered to himself and said, "That's good too. Although I had not recovered my consciousness at that time, they still died under my blade." Thinking about it, because he had suddenly chanted "a man walks" this time, it had actually caused such an inconceivable thing. The commotion was indeed a little big. Moreover, the experience this time had greatly benefited his mind, and he did not plan to stay here for long. He glanced around, and his gaze fell on the broken corner of the formation map. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed the formation map in his hand. Clang! With a clear sound, the tiger's soul returned to its sheath. With a thought, a demonic wind instantly lifted his body, and he quickly left the wasteland. He wanted to rush back to the myriad demon valley as quickly as possible. The experience this time was a complete accident, but only he knew how great of a benefit he had obtained from this accident. He wanted to take advantage of this moment to hurry back to the valley and properly organize all the insights and absorb them completely. He had a feeling that as long as he comprehended all of them, his strength would cross a huge gap because of this. He would be able to reach a higher level, especially that blade technique. If he completely comprehended it, he could completely make up for the lack of ultimate skills and blade techniques. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.cheatian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 239. The Demon Clan Still Has a Future. On the largest 10,000-bone devouring soul tree, the underworld crow king quietly stood on the crown of the tree and watched Sakura's figure that swiftly left as he muttered. The scene from earlier had practically not missed a single trace of it in his eyes. After witnessing it with his own eyes, the shock in his heart was even more unforgettable. That monstrous and unparalleled divine power appeared in his mind. That blade that could cut through the sky and shatter the void gave him a stunning impression. It was powerful and terrifying. Almost no one could match that blade. That was no longer a simple blade technique. It had risen to the level of a battle technique. Moreover, it was a battle technique that could show disdain for the world. When unleashed to the limit, who in the world could match it? After a long time, the underworld Raven King's eyes slowly closed again. He breathed rhythmically. With every breath, wisps of gray death chi entered his body. Who exactly is this demon clan member? He could actually cause such a commotion and such a heavenly omen. Even I was shocked by the murderous aura that came just now. Even if I was at my peak, it would be extremely difficult to deal with it. Could it be that the demon clan is really not destined to die out? After so many years, could it be that an unparalleled powerhouse can still be born like in ancient times? In a huge ancient tree in the 100 Flowers Valley, True Lord Ku Rong was still integrated into the ancient tree. His entire body's aura was completely restrained, not leaking a single bit. His entire life force was connected to the tree's body, constantly devouring the ancient tree's enormous vitality and absorbing it into his own body. At this moment, his eyes opened. There were traces of fear and a complicated expression in his eyes. Although there is a possibility of becoming an unparalleled powerhouse, potential is still just potential. Now that this flower fairy is about to start her tribulation, her original body will definitely appear during the tribulation. At that time, I'll devour her in one fell swoop. With the enormous essence contained in it, it'll be enough to heal my injuries by 10 to 20%. At that time, I'll kill that little demon clan member along the way. So what if you have great potential? I'll destroy your hope. When he thought about how he had waited for so many years and was finally waiting for the best opportunity, his eyes could not help but emit traces of bright light. However, this light was only revealed for a moment before it was immediately withdrawn. Who is it? However, this glimmer of light did not escape Chun-Chi's spiritual perception. He felt as if there was a pair of eyes staring at him in the darkness. It sent a chill down her spine. A pure consciousness quickly spread out, covering the entire 100-Flower Valley. It scanned every inch of space. Strange. I clearly felt a gaze sweep past me just now. Why can't I find it? Could it be my imagination? Chun-Chi sat quietly in the room. His brows furrowed slightly, and a trace of doubt appeared on his flawless face. However, it still gave people a feeling of wanting to take pity on her. A woman like her seemed to have been created by the heavens. She was born to be cherished. He secretly thought that it was strange. After searching carefully again and again, he still could not find any clues, so he could only put it aside for the time being. How could she know that there was actually a person like perfected Lord Ku Rong in this world? He could hide himself in an ancient tree and conceal his aura completely. His means were truly extraordinary. Maybe it's really just my illusion. However, the day of my tribulation is getting closer and closer. It won't be long before I take that step. During this period of time, it seems that I should strengthen my vigilance, lest the cultivators with ulterior motives have a chance to plot against me during my tribulation. Although Chun-Chi didn't find anything, she secretly strengthened her vigilance in her heart. Back then, when Medusa was transcending the demonic tribulation of the shape-shifting realm, she was plotted against by the Leaf family's ancestor. It was still vivid in her mind, so she had to be on guard. "Brother, you're back. Did you sing the song just now?" Di-Shirtian rode the demon wind and directly returned to the myriad demon valley from the wilderness. As soon as he returned to the valley, Xiaobai was standing in front of the cave residence, looking at her brother who was descending from midair with stars in her eyes. She asked in a childish voice, "Xiaobai, don't worry about the songs. Put all your focus on cultivation. You must cultivate the tiger roar technique that I taught you. Once you've finished cultivating it, Big Brother will teach you the next step of the technique." Although Sakura was in a hurry to return to the abode to meditate and absorb this unexpected comprehension, when he saw Whitey, the only blood relative by his side until now, there was always a strand of tenderness that reverberated in his heart. He stopped and embraced Whitey as he spoke gently. For some reason, ever since he went to the Myriad Beast sect, no matter how Xiaobai cultivated, there was no way for her to grow. Even if she was now at the peak of the demon beast realm and could break through to the demon beast realm at any time, she still maintained her young body. It should be known that if Xiaobai had not been following Di-Shirtian's, and by whose instructions to seriously build her foundation, with the support of countless spirit wines and spirit medicines, she could have stepped into the demon beast realm long ago. But now she was still the same. Humph, the Myriad Beast sect. What you did to Xiaobai will come to an end sooner or later. Thinking of Xiaobai's current situation, his eyes could not help but flash a trace of strong murderous intent. Brother, Xiaobai is very hardworking, very hardworking. Sister Tian Xiang said before that Xiaobai could break through to the demon beast realm. Brother said before that you would give Xiaobai a reward. You can't go back on your words. Xiaobai tilted her head and said with a smile. In the valley, she felt very fulfilled every day with her brother accompanying her. It was just that she would often think of her mother White Tiger and second brother in the Myriad Beast sect. She would always wonder where they were and how they were doing. Xiaobai is the most obedient. As long as you break through to the demon beast realm, brother will definitely give you a big surprise. Hearing Xiaobai's young voice, Di-Shirtian could not help but relax. He smiled faintly and lightly scratched her little nose. He said gently, "Xiaobai will go into seclusion now. Xiaobai will not come out until I become a demon beast." Hearing this, Xiaobai's eyes immediately lit up. With a so sound, she jumped out of Di-Shirtian's arms and quickly jumped into her small cave residence. She looked as if she could not wait. Looking at Xiaobai's departing figure, Di-Shirtian shook his head slightly and sighed in his heart. Xiaobai, It's not that brother wants you to cultivate so desperately that I don't even have much time to accompany you. It's just that this world is a world where the strong preys on the weak. I can't always be by your side to protect you. Without strength, if there's really danger, I can't even save you in time. Also, mother and brother's life and death are still unknown. If I can really stand aloof from worldly affairs, I also want to be together with my family and enjoy life to the fullest. He sighed slightly. There were many things that he had to do. There was no way out. He turned and entered the cave residence. There was not a speck of dust in the cave. In the past few days, he had taught Chi-Hua and the others various spells in the valley. Although these spells were similar to Di Shurtian in that they all carried demonic aura, it was fine as long as they were useful and had power. On the contrary, with demonic aura mixed in, the power was often stronger. Learning spells, or to the demon race, could be considered demonic arts. Baisusu often came to the cave residence to help clean. Using the water condensation technique and the wind manipulation technique, she could make the cave residence spotless in the blink of an eye. After all, this was a token of her subordinates' goodwill. Baisusu was a woman and was more meticulous. Di Shurtian did not reject her. After entering the cave residence, he sat down on a cushion. He closed the stone door and sealed the cave residence. He gradually closed his eyes and immersed his mind in his mind. He constantly recalled all his experiences and insights in the Withered Bone Wilderness. The Song of Slaughter had attracted the remnant souls of countless ancient gods, demons, and demons who had died in the Withered Bone Wilderness, as well as the last trace of killing intent in their bodies. All of it poured into his body. At that time, his mind was in an inexplicable state. It was in a state of sublimation and transformation. Only then could he not be affected by the endless killing intent. In that kind of situation, his aura and even his cultivation base were rising rapidly, reaching an unimaginable level. It was as if every move he made contained an earth-shattering and invincible power. It was a powerful feeling of standing at the peak of power. At that moment, his entire mind seemed to have become a demon sage with unparalleled power, a demon god. Of course, the power at that moment was not Di Shurtian's own power. It was a power that he obtained in a short period of time through the help of countless souls. When the time came, it would naturally dissipate. That was a power that did not belong to him. Di Shurtian was in a hurry to return. Of course, it was not because he wanted to keep the power that did not belong to him. Instead, he wanted to experience the feeling of stepping to the peak in an instant. That kind of extraordinary understanding of heaven and earth. That trace of the mark of the peak power. He instinctively felt that if he could understand this trace of mark, it would definitely be immeasurably beneficial to his future cultivation. Just think about it. Although he was in the demonic beast realm, he was able to understand the unseen experience of a peerless powerhouse. He was able to experience the power of a peak realm. That kind of feeling was almost like a guiding light on the path of cultivation. It guided him in the right direction. It allowed him to climb all the way and play an even more motivating role. This was the realm. Different realms would have different understandings and have different understandings of power. Just think about it. How big was the gap between a demon beast who had reached the peak and a demon beast who had not? One was equivalent to recultivating with the realm, while the other was starting from scratch. It was difficult to move forward. It was easy to imagine the difference between the two. Di Shurtian immersed his mind and tried to search for that trace of mark, that trace of feeling, because he knew that this was the greatest opportunity and the greatest gain. If he gave up, he was afraid that he would regret it for the rest of his life. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 240. Of course, with Di Shurtian's current cultivation, it was impossible for him to fully comprehend or even understand this peak understanding. However, he did not need to fully comprehend it. He only needed to remember the feeling when he was at the peak. That was enough. This understanding was only a reference, a guiding light. True comprehension was something that only truly belonged to oneself, when one had truly climbed to the pinnacle of the world. After sealing the cave dwelling and entering the cave, a full month had passed. Tion was still sitting quietly on the futon. When the appetite in his body was aroused, he would gulp down a few mouthfuls of spirit wine, temporarily restraining himself. He allowed his mind to slowly adapt to this feeling and fuse with it. That understanding was not too difficult to find. Within a month, he finally found it and branded this feeling in his mind so that he would never forget it and would be able to comprehend it from time to time. After doing all this, he did not leave the cave dwelling. Instead, he continued his closed-door training in the cave dwelling. Compared to this peak comprehension, what he was more concerned about was the world-shaking strike he had used in the Withered Bone Wasteland back then. Even now, the elegance of that strike was still constantly hovering in his mind. Even now, the power of that slash was something that even he could not help but marvel at, even if he was the one executing it. Shocking power was no longer enough to describe its supreme power. He could feel that even if the gods and Buddhas that had transcended the mortal world had appeared in front of him, they would still be able to kill anything that stood in their way. It could make heaven and earth tremble. Moreover, the most amazing thing was that this blade was a supreme battle skill that he had unintentionally created. Seriously thinking about it, the appearance of this battle skill was really a great opportunity. Under normal circumstances, it was almost impossible to create such a battle skill. This was because he simply did not have the foundation and accumulation to create such a battle skill. Thinking about it, those who could create cultivation skills and battle skills were all peerless geniuses. They had extensive knowledge of countless cultivation skills and battle skills, and had a deep understanding of the principles of heaven and earth. In addition, they had amazing attainments in certain aspects and a certain amount of opportunity. Only then could he create it. On the other hand, Tion had only been practicing the saber for half a year. He was still miles away from that requirement. Creating a new move was almost impossible. However, it just so happened that Tian's fortuitous encounter was extremely profound. It was as if he was born with great luck. At that time, his mind was in a state of emptiness. Under the agitation of the murderous song, there was a vast and mighty aura in his chest. At that time, when thousands of remnant souls of gods and devils poured into his body, countless murderous aura condensed in his body. The murderous intent of those gods and devils tangled together, more or less carrying a trace of the understanding of slaughter from when they were alive. Comprehension of the realm. And at that moment, Tion took the opportunity to slash out with his saber. The remnant comprehension of slaughter in the god fiend's remnant soul immediately spewed out like a fountain. With Tiger Soul as the center, it instantly evolved into a shocking move. It could be said that Tion was able to create that move not relying on his own accumulation and comprehension, but the last trace of comprehension and experience of those remnant souls fused together to form a great killing move. The momentum of the saber was like the angry roar of heaven and earth, mixed with the murderous intent of the gods and devils. It was the trace of unwillingness and persistence of the gods and devils when they fell and killed. When the saber was unleashed, it danced with the gods and devils. Its strength was unparalleled in the world, since it was a battle skill that evolved from the final murderous intent of the gods and devils. Why don't I name it? The God and Devil's Mourning. Tion recalled the scene of the saber being slashed out in his mind. He could faintly feel his blood boiling in his body. He had the urge to pull out his saber and kill on the spot. It really had a unique concept of battle intent. When cultivating a saber battle skill, one had to practice it personally with a saber. There was no way to use it in the cave. He could only first use the various techniques of the god and devil's mourning in his mind. He quickly broke down the various battle skills in his mind and absorbed them. He had to first silently practice each part in his mind 1,000 times, no, 10,000 times, until he could accurately grasp the crux of the battle skill. This god and devil's mourning will be my killing move from now on. I can't use it casually in front of others. It should be used as a trump card. Tion secretly made up his mind in his heart. The god in Devil's Morning was powerful, but apart from this move, he didn't have any other powerful battle skills. The only thing he could use was a set of basic saber techniques. In order to use this saber technique, one had to rely on one's own ability to adapt on the spot. He had to see the situation and use the saber technique accordingly. With the power of the god in Devil's Morning, it was best to use a trump card that could reverse the situation and turn the tables on the spot. With the experience of a lifetime, he deeply knew that in this world, no matter what, one could not lose a trump card. Without a trump card in one's hand, one would be passive. Trump cards, he had always been very important to him. The divine song of 7 sins, this peerless divine song, was his biggest trump card. This trump card was the reason why he dared to face the great sect of the cultivation world, the Thousand Beasts sect. It could even be said that it was the source of his confidence. He had never used it in front of anyone, even when he was almost killed by the skeleton sovereign king. As long as he wasn't forced into a desperate situation, he resisted the urge to use this trump card. One trump card was far from enough. Now that he had the god in Devil's Morning, it would be another trump card. If used well, it could turn the situation around. He constantly comprehended the god in Devil's Morning in his mind. He wanted to deeply imprint this battle skill in his heart, imprint it on his body, and even make it an instinctive existence. Besides the god in Devil's Morning, what Tion cared about the most was the strange change that had occurred in the Purple King mark. He didn't know why, but he had a faint feeling that this change was a metamorphosis of his innate ability and evolution. What he cared about more was the purple altar that had appeared in the King mark. That altar was very mysterious. At that time, countless remnant souls had entered the space of the King mark, turning into battle souls and rushing into the altar. On the surface of the altar, there were layers upon layers of strange fighting souls. Moreover, the altar was completely connected to the purple pool, as if they were born together. The power of the purple pool constantly flowed into the altar and then into the bodies of the fighting souls on the altar. It was very strange. Since the appearance of the altar, he felt that he had a deeper understanding of the power of the King mark. It was as if he was gradually fusing it with his innate ability. Unfortunately, he still couldn't completely master it. It was as if the innate ability hadn't completely taken shape and hadn't completely transformed. Other than the altar, it was as if something else was missing. Perhaps when the King Mar transformed to a certain extent, the purple pool inside would grow and he would be able to completely master his innate ability. My innate ability doesn't seem to be as simple as I thought. A thought quickly flashed through his mind. However, he didn't think too much about it and silently absorbed the things that he had obtained this time. These were all true wealth, and they were things that couldn't be bought with money. Finally, another month passed. Rumble. The stone door in front of the cave house made a muffled sound and quickly rose up. Tion was dressed in a black robe, and the domineering tiger soul was on his back. After the tiger soul drank the blood, it devoured the blood essence and soul essence of more than 10 cultivators. Overall, it had an additional demonic, murderous aura and an additional power that could intimidate one's mind. Pata. Looking up, the moonlight was like snow, sprinkling down. It was already night, and all the intelligent demons in the valley were breathing under the moon, absorbing the essence of the sun and moon. Most of them knew how to work hard and cultivate. However, Tion was thinking about how to systematically create a cultivation system and environment for the demons in the valley. He already had a rough idea in his mind, and now, with the demon cultivation manuals he had obtained from the 100 Flowers Valley, his idea gradually began to be put on the agenda. Rumble. After leaving the cave residence, he walked straight ahead. Not long after, he arrived in front of the waterfall where he had been practicing his saber for half a year. As the saying went, the water flows down 3,000 feet, as if the Milky Way falls from the 9 heavens. The waterfall fell from the sky and collided with the lake water in the pool, making a series of loud, crashing sounds. Thick water vapor blew in his face, making him feel relaxed and happy. Clang! His right hand instantly grasped the hilt of the tiger soul saber on his back. With a twist of his wrist, a crisp sound rang out, and the tiger's soul was unsheathed. Once it was out of the sheath, the saber did not stop. It slashed out with the saber and changed into various techniques rapidly. Slash, chop, drive, block, slap, and lift. The moves were displayed rapidly. Moreover, he did not use all of the moves. When he was halfway through, he immediately changed into other moves like flowing water. There was not a trace of rigidity or hindrance in the change. It was as if he was carrying out an antelope's horn, untraceable. It was abnormally natural. In the past few months, his saber technique had a deeper understanding and improvement. Suddenly, when he lifted the tiger's soul above his head with a lift, Shurtian's expression suddenly became abnormally serious. The demon essence in his body quickly circulated in a mysterious way and poured into the tiger's soul. A golden saber gleam that was dozens of feet long burst out from the tiger's soul saber. Even the darkness of the night could not cover up that gleam. It was abnormally bright. The tiger's soul moved in a mysterious trajectory and quickly slashed down at the waterfall. The terrifying might was like the vast might of the heavens. Wherever the saber went, one could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. Around the tiger's soul, gods and demons strangely condensed. These gods and demons were all different. They waved sabers in their hands. The sabers used the simplest saber techniques, but the sabers contained a terrifying power. Boundless murderous aura rose. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 241. Tiger's soul soared through the sky, accompanied by gods and demons. These gods and demons were summoned by the saber intent in Tiger's soul. They were formed by heaven and earth, and they were formed by the boundless murderous aura that Shurtian possessed. Every god and demon had a different appearance. Moreover, there were all kinds of flaws on their bodies, as if they had gone through countless battles to form their broken bodies. Their bodies also emitted a shocking murderous aura. It was the tragic slaughter that the gods and demons released when they died. The terrifying aura that caused heaven and earth to weep for them was completely revealed in this slash. There weren't many gods and demons formed around Tiger's soul. There were only 100 of them, and they didn't cover a large area. However, all living beings in this area were faced with the sorrow of the gods and demons' deaths and the terrifying saber intent. Even the air under the saber seemed to be completely frozen. All the gods and demons were holding a saber in their hands. The sabers slashed out with different saber techniques. These saber techniques were the only saber techniques that Shurtian knew. They were the various basic saber techniques. Although they were simple, every slash seemed to follow the path of heaven and earth. They were mixed with boundless murderous aura. It was as if they were facing the power of heaven and earth. Bang! Rumble! The power of the death of the gods and demons bombarded the vast waterfall that was flowing straight down. The waterfall shattered on the spot, turning into countless water droplets that shot out in all directions. However, before they could shoot out, the gods and demons' sabers had completely turned them into powder. The waterfall that was originally pouring down was annihilated by the slash of the saber. Not a single drop of water fell into the pool. The waterfall that flowed all year round was actually cut off by this slash of the saber. The sharp edge of Tiger's soul landed on the mountain peak behind the waterfall, forming a terrifying saber mark in the middle. It was as if there was a huge hole in the middle, and it was extremely mystical. Rumble. Shurtian didn't intend to completely destroy the waterfall with this slash of the saber. He only destroyed the water that was pouring down at that time, turning it into nothingness. In the blink of an eye, another waterfall began to fall from the peak of the mountain again. Looking at the clear splashes of water, it made one's heart feel peaceful. Yes, although it's far from the first time I used it, it's just right for me now. If it's any stronger, I'm afraid my own demonic chi won't be able to support it. Closing his eyes, he silently sensed every moment he had used the divinity and devil morning. As he experienced it, he gained a deeper understanding of the divinity and devil morning. Although it wasn't as terrifying as it had been back in the Witherbone Wasteland, he could clearly sense that if he used it, he would be invincible among core formation cultivators in the immortal cultivation world. Even a nascent soul realm cultivator would have the chance to kill him if he was careless. However, this move did consume a lot of demonic chi. Based on his current strength, he could only use the God Fiend's morning 3 times at most. Its power and consumption were almost directly proportional. If the power was a little bit stronger, Tion suspected that if he used it, there might be the possibility of sucking people dry. Tion stood quietly on the spot, silently circulating his cultivation technique. He urged the demon refining cauldron in his demon abode to spin quickly, driving the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth into his body like a whirlwind. This was the good thing about a heaven-grade demon abode. No matter how much energy was consumed, the speed of recovery was second to none in the world. Badump, badump. His heart was beating rapidly. The frequency of his heartbeat was far beyond the limits of ordinary living beings. Every second, his heart would beat hundreds of times. Waves of demonic chi spewed out from his heart and flowed through his demonic meridians to all parts of his body. After a while, the demonic chi he had consumed was completely recovered. Looking at the night sky, the moon was gradually tilting, and the moonlight it emitted was slowly diminishing. The surrounding darkness became even more dense. It was already the darkest moment before dawn. After a while, the sun would rise and a new day would begin. Holding the tiger's soul, he didn't plan to waste this beautiful moment. He raised the tiger's soul and continued to practice the only set of basic saber techniques that he knew. Rumble. At this moment, a terrifying thunderclap suddenly sounded in the sky above the southern wilderness. This thunderclap was even weirder than ordinary thunderclaps. The sound seemed to carry the majesty of heaven and earth, and naturally contained a vast deterrent force. It seemed to be able to shake the void. The sound was so loud that it almost resounded throughout the southern wilderness in an instant. It woke up countless demons who were inhaling and exhaling moonlight, as well as animals who were sleeping in their nests. What was truly frightening was the vast and mighty pressure that came from the void. It was like the might of heaven, and like a tide, it swept in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the entire southern wilderness was completely shrouded under the pressure. Under this pressure, all the spiritual beasts below the demonic beast realm were pressed to the ground, unable to move. This thunder, I've heard it before. Tion turned his wrist and quickly sheathed the tiger soul into the scabbard. His gaze shot straight into the void. There was an indescribable and extremely difficult to understand look in his eyes. Your Majesty, feeling the terrible pressure coming from the void, only Chi Hua and the others could still move in the myriad demon valley. Only the demonic beasts could temporarily resist it. With a shout, Chi Hua and the others quickly rushed out from all directions of the valley and rushed toward Shurkin's location. With Chi Hua in the lead, Yuan Tian, Bai Yu, and In Kong all appeared one after another. There was a faint trace of demonic chi on their bodies, resisting the pressure of the outside world. However, they still walked quite steadily and quickly. Obviously, with the support of countless spiritual wines, each of them had laid a strong foundation. Their potential was far stronger than that of other demonic beasts. Well, you're all here. Tian glanced at Chi Hua, Bai Yu, and the others and nodded slightly. Your Majesty, what was the thunder just now? And this pressure, it's so uncomfortable. Bai Susu's huge body swayed slightly as she felt the pressure from the void. She felt that the surrounding air seemed to have solidified. It made them feel quite uncomfortable. Yes, Your Majesty, this situation seems to have never happened before." Chihua's two ox eyes revealed a curious look. Although he was an ox, his brain was not stupid. He just looked calmer, with the steadiness and persistence of an ox. Faintly, one could see the hatred and persistence in his eyes from time to time. The scene of his own child being killed in front of him was still vivid in his mind, and he had never forgotten it. This was also the source and motivation of his cultivation. This is the demonic beast clan in the Southern Barbarian is about to begin their tribulation. Moreover, I'm afraid it's not an ordinary shape-shifting demonic tribulation, but a more powerful heavenly tribulation. Tion turned his back to them and raised his head to look at the void. His expression became abnormally solemn. He had a general understanding of the situation in the Southern Barbarian. Most of the core forces were actually some demonic beasts in the Southern Barbarian, as well as the demonic beast kings. The ones at the top were the demonic beasts that had condensed inner cores. As far as he knew, there were only two demonic beasts that had condensed inner cores in the Southern Barbarian. One was Medusa, and the other was Chun-Shi, the master of the 100-Flower Valley, who he could not see through the most. The current situation was obviously not a sign of the shape-shifting demonic tribulation. If he ruled out this possibility, it would be the heavenly tribulation after condensing inner cores. Your Majesty, look, a cloud is falling. That direction seems to be the center of the Southern Barbarian. In Kong's eyes were the sharpest. Moreover, he was flying high up in the sky. With a glance, he discovered that a strange black cloud had suddenly condensed. Within the black cloud, streaks of resplendent lightning flashed rapidly, illuminating the surrounding sky in a bizarre and dazzling light. It was abnormally strange and terrifying. After the formation of the black cloud, the originally vast pressure suddenly rose a little, appearing even more terrifying. Near the black cloud, many ordinary animals had been pressed to the point that blood was constantly gushing out of their mouths, eyes, and noses. Their bodies trembled violently like a chaff. That's the tribulation cloud. Not good. That direction is the 100-Flower Valley. The one undergoing the tribulation is Chun-Shi. A light flashed in Sakura's eyes as he immediately saw the direction of the tribulation cloud. In just a split second, he made up his mind and said, "No matter if it is or not, I have to go and take a look. The tribulation is incomparably dangerous. She gave me so many precious scriptures. At this critical moment, I should go and protect her." He murmured. He had seen the tribulation more than once. The tribulation he saw in Tiger Hill was so terrifying that it was deeply imprinted in his mind. No matter when, the tribulation was an extremely important thing. "Your Majesty, let's go together. Now that we have become monsters, we can help you more or less. Please take us with you." Chihua heard it and immediately stepped forward without hesitation and said expectantly, "Yes, Your Majesty. In the past, you were the only one who went out to fight. As your subordinates, we couldn't share your worries. Now that we have the strength, it's time for us to contribute. Your Majesty, please take us with you." Baiwe and others looked at each other and knelt down in unison. Their voices were unusually determined. Now that they were monsters, they also wanted to let out their own roar to help their Majesty share his worries. Tion heard it and frowned slightly. He glanced at Chihua, Baiwe, and others who were kneeling behind him. His eyes were thoughtful. He thought to himself, only by going through storms can one be independent in the future. It's time to let them go and explore. After pondering for a moment, he said seriously, "Okay, this time we will go to the 100-Flower Valley to guard her. I will let you see the tribulation. It will be of great help to you when you go through the tribulation in the future. Come with me." Tion said indifferently. With a thought, a demon wind appeared out of thin air and appeared beside him. It suddenly rolled him up into the air and flew forward. The demon wind was black and looked like a black demon cloud. It rolled away. "If you have tickets, please help me. And if you're reading outside the station, I hope that you can come back and give me a few recommendations after you finish reading." To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author and support the original reading. Chapter 242. Roar. King Kong himself was the king of the sky, although he also knew the Imperial Wind technique. But if he used the Imperial Wind technique, what was the use of his wings? He flapped his wings heavily and instantly. Golden light flickered above his head as he followed closely behind Sakura. Chi-Hua and the others followed suit. They used the Imperial Wind technique one after another, creating a gust of demonic wind. They soared into the sky and rushed towards the 100 Transformation Valley in a grandiose manner. Combined together, it was truly a demonic wind. Demonic chi surged, whistling through the air above the mountain forest. Sister Chun, she is going to face the 19th Heavenly Tribulation. She is a plant spirit, so the 19th Heavenly Tribulation is the most important to her. There can't be any accidents. I've always been the one to accept her kindness. This time, I can't shirk the responsibility of protecting her. If there's a thief spying on her and hurting her, I, Medusa, will be the sinner of the entire Southern Barbarian. A colorful clothed Medusa's expressionless eyes revealed traces of warmth as she stood on a mountain peak. There was also a faint feeling of tenseness. She did not even need to think as she opened her mouth and spat out. A crystal clear mirror that was mixed with a cluster of colorful light flew out of her body. The edges of this mirror were surprisingly covered in a snake-shaped pattern. It was as if there were colorful snakes coiled together on the edge. As soon as the mirror appeared, it flipped and emitted waves of sparkling light. It quickly grew bigger and became the size of a millstone in the blink of an eye. Medusa flew into the air and landed on the mirror. The mirror pulled out streaks of colorful light and took her to the 100-Flower Valley. Back then, Disher Tion had taught her the method to refine life source magic treasures. Naturally, she hadn't been idle all these years and had refined this mirror. Looking at the light emitted from its surface, it could be seen that its quality had stepped into the ranks of magic treasures. It was a demon treasure. It was called the God-suppressing mirror and was very powerful. It had a very magical ability. Such a natal magic weapon had unknowingly multiplied her strength. All these years, she had been carefully cultivating this demonic weapon. He had poured a lot of effort into it, and it could be said to be incomparably marvelous. In the sky, the black tribulation cloud became denser and denser as time passed. The vast heavenly might was emitted from the tribulation cloud, and there were countless ferocious lightning flashing on it. It seemed that Duan was abnormally terrifying. Every strand of lightning contained the power of heaven and earth. This was a heavenly tribulation, a tribulation cloud. It was a terrifying power used by the heavens to intimidate all living beings. It represented the might of the world. Every strand of lightning contained the power of the world. It had a powerful restraining power against all things in the world, especially demons. Its power was even more terrifying when it erupted. For many lesser demons, thunder was the power of the heavens. When it rained and thundered, they would stay in their caves and not dare to go out. They were afraid of being struck by a thunderbolt. If that happened, they would be seriously injured even if they didn't die. For those monsters who had cultivated successfully, it was still quite a deterrent. Perhaps they were not too afraid of other lightning, but the heavenly tribulation was different. Under the heavenly tribulation, nothing dared to be arrogant. The power of the heavenly tribulation was too terrifying. You could dodge ordinary lightning, but even if you burrowed into the ground, this heavenly tribulation would still follow you. If it wanted to hit you, even if you went up to the sky or down to the ground, there was no possibility of dodging. The only way was to face it head on. The heavenly tribulation didn't care what defensive means you used, but it would hit you. If you had the ability to withstand it, then that was your ability. If you couldn't, sorry, but you couldn't pass the test of heaven and earth. It was better to just accept it. Sister, the heavenly tribulation is here. You can definitely pass it successfully. Under the tribulation cloud, there was a valley. Countless flowers were blooming in the valley. Even under the heavenly tribulation, These flowers were still blooming tenaciously. Traces of the essence of the flowers were constantly being emitted from the flowers, rushing towards the beautiful girl who was like a white lotus that had just emerged from the water. It was as if they were trying their best to help that girl. Chun-Shi stood under the tribulation cloud. Between her slender fingers, there was a pink flower petal. She raised her head, revealing that beautiful face that could make all things in the world lose their color. Her face was calm, as if she was not under the heavenly tribulation. Sure, although I made a lot of preparations for the 19th heavenly tribulation this time, under the heavenly tribulation, no one dares to say that they can pass it with 100% certainty. No one knows what will happen. As the saying goes, natural disasters and man-made disasters. Even if it is the heavenly tribulation, it may also be accompanied by external disasters. Whether or not you can pass it depends on your destiny. Chun-Shi's state of mind had long been promoted to a state of calmness. She nodded with a smile and said, "Well, this heavenly tribulation is not the metamorphosis heavenly tribulation. Although it is only the first of the heavenly tribulations that the demon tribe has to pass, the 19th heavenly tribulation, its power is not something you can withstand. Quickly fall out of the heavenly tribulation. Sister will be fine." Looking at her expression, she seemed to be very indifferent. In fact, in her heart, she valued this matter more than anyone else. It should be known that the human tribe was born with a Taoist body and was blessed by heaven and earth. In cultivation, they could go all the way until the tribulation realm. Only then would they encounter the heavenly tribulation. Although the heavenly tribulation was very powerful, once they passed it, they would step into the earthly immortal realm and could ascend at any time. Even if only 1 out of 10 survived, there is still hope. However, it was different for the demon clan. Ever since the ancient times, the demon clan's cultivation had been extremely difficult. Every step was a matter of life and death. When a demon beast condensed its inner core and became a demon, it had to undergo the demon tribulation. After that, with every step forward, it had to undergo a heavenly tribulation. It was called the 9 levels of heavenly tribulation, or the 9 demon tribulation. When the inner core reached the peak of the first revolution, one would have to go through the first 9 demonic tribulations. If one could pass through the first 9 demonic tribulations, one would have to go through the second revolution. When one reached the peak of the second revolution, one would have to go through the second revolution. When one reached the third revolution, one would officially be called a demonic beast king. After that, the inner core would reach the 6 transformations and become a great demon. When the inner core reached the 9 transformations, one would have passed the 9 demonic tribulations and become a demon saint with boundless power. Those that were able to achieve the martial sacred realm were all peerless rulers, dominating a region. According to the legends, there were no longer any martial sacred beasts in the purple gold continent. This was because once one reached the great demon realm, one could directly enter the demon realm. Great demons were already powerful experts. Just think about it. Every step forward would require one to go through a heavenly tribulation. Every step was a grave. Those that were able to cultivate to the great demon realm could do whatever they wanted in the continent. Unfortunately, it had been many years since such an existence appeared in the demon realm. It was said that even in the demon realm, there were only a few martial sacred beasts and not many great demon beasts. To be honest, Baihu and the rest of the 8 great demon kings that were famous in the immortal cultivation world were called demon kings, but they had not truly reached the demon king realm. They had yet to go through the 9 demonic tribulations. Currently, the demon race only needed to go through the first 9 demonic tribulations to be called demon kings. It was truly unworthy of a name. Otherwise, how could a nascent soul realm cultivator stand a chance against a real demon king? If Baihu truly possessed the strength of a demon king, Qing Yanzi would not have dared to hunt her down in the past. He would be lucky if he did not find a hole to hide in. He would not dare to face a real demon king, even if he had 3 guts. The reason why there were so few experts among the demon race was because of the difficulty of the demon tribulations, especially the 9 demonic tribulations, 6 9 demonic tribulations, and the final 9 demonic tribulations. These 3 tribulations were much more terrifying than the previous ones. This was the most powerful test. The number of strange demons who had fallen in this 3-stage demonic tribulation was not small at all. The first 9 demonic tribulations might be important to others, but it was even more important to Chen Shi. The difference between the flora elves made their cultivation more difficult. Other demon beasts could easily switch between their original form and their transformed form after overcoming the demon tribulation of form transformation. However, the flora elves had to overcome the first 9 demonic tribulations and borrow the power of the demon tribulation to fully merge their original form with their body, allowing them to truly transform. They no longer needed to be restricted by the terrain and could go anywhere at will. Why didn't the other demon beasts in the Southern Barbarian come to protect Elder Sister when she was going through the tribulation? It's really a waste to teach them cultivation methods before. When Elder Sister was in trouble, they all hid somewhere. Vermilion Bird pouted and shouted angrily. In her 2 eyes, there was no longer the previous cunning and playfulness, which had long been replaced by a worried and nervous look. From time to time, she would shout a few words angrily. She was afraid that if something really happened, what should she do at that time? Zhuer, you're wrong. The Kingdom of Dawn is about to undergo her tribulation. Even though I can't be of much help during her tribulation, I still have to bear the responsibility of being a protector. Anyone who wants to cause trouble during the Kingdom of Dawn's tribulation will have to first ask for my permission and the permission of the Tiger Soul in my hands. A voice full of majesty broke through the air and appeared in the valley. The voice was incomparably calm, and it sounded like it contained an endless, deterrent aura, which made people's hearts and minds turn solemn. Elder Sister, it's Big Brother D, it's Big Brother D. Zhuer knew that Big Brother D would definitely rush over when he saw the tribulation clouds. My guess was right. Zhuer looked in the direction of the voice and saw the figure standing in the rolling demon cloud. She couldn't help but cry out in joy. Hee, Big Brother D is really something. He even brought all the demon beasts in the valley over. Whoosh! With a sweep of the demonic wind, Di Shirtian quickly descended from the sky with Chi Hua and the rest. When he landed in the valley, he naturally emitted a heavy aura. He was imposing without being angry. Since it's Chun Shi's tribulation, there's no reason for me not to come. Di Shirtian looked at Chun Shi. When he saw that Chun Shi's expression didn't change in the face of the heavenly tribulation, he couldn't help but secretly admire him. Good Sakura, you actually came faster than me, old black. Bang, bang, bang. With a series of heavy footsteps, the Black Ape King's body, which was as tall as King Kong, quickly stepped into the valley. Howl! A high-pitched cry of a crane sounded from the south. A snow-white cloud appeared in the sky. Upon closer inspection, it was the red-crowned Crane King that had also rushed over. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 243. That white cloud was the scene of her spreading out her wings, covering the sky and the earth. As a veteran demonic beast king in the southern barbarian lands, the red-crowned Crane King was not ordinary. Usually, when it stood on a tree and folded its wings, there was no big difference. It looked just like an adult cicadere. However, when it flew into the sky and spread its wings, its snow-white feathers would cover a large part of the sky. Looking at the length of its wings, it was no less than 30 to 40 feet wide. When it appeared in the sky, it indeed had the aura of covering the sky. Moreover, its feathers were all snow-white, and there was a red dot on its head. Its snow-white neck was raised high, making it look very noble. Sister Crane is here, too. The Vermilion Bird was like a little princess in the southern barbarian. All the monster kings knew her, and they usually doted on her. The men called her Big Brother, and the women called her Big Sister. Brothers and sisters were everywhere in the southern barbarian. According to her own words, the more brothers and sisters she had, the more people she would help when something happened. If something happened, her brothers and sisters would be in front of her, and she would wave the flag and cheer from behind. Sister is going to face the tribulation. As her younger sister, there is no reason for me not to come. No matter who it is, as long as they dare to cause trouble at this time. Even if I have to give up my life, I will definitely not let them hurt Sister She. The red-crowned crane king was like a white cloud, quickly descending from the sky and looking at Chun-Shi in the valley outside the tribulation cloud. Seeing Chun-Shi's calmness in the face of the monster tribulation, she could not help but be impressed. Hee, Big Brother D is here. That black block is here too. Now, Sister Crane is here too. That annoying crow and the golden lion should be here soon. Yes, there's also Sister Medusa. She has formed an inner core. When she comes, she will definitely guard the valley like an iron bucket. The vermilion bird chirped happily. She tilted her head and said, Big Sister said that before she faced the tribulation, she sensed that the 19-demon tribulation this time is not only a heavenly tribulation, but also an external tribulation. An external tribulation was a tribulation outside of the heavenly tribulation. For example, a cultivator had already passed through the heavenly tribulation. However, after passing through the heavenly tribulation, the cultivator's cultivation was completely exhausted. At this time, an enemy suddenly appeared and attacked the cultivator from behind. The cultivator might be in danger of dying. This was the external tribulation. It was outside of the heavenly tribulation, and no one could predict it. Whether it was real or not was very difficult to predict. Therefore, many cultivators who were about to face their heavenly tribulation would go out alone and find a hidden place that only they knew about to face their heavenly tribulation. In this way, it was possible to eliminate the chances of the enemy finding an opportunity to make a move. If one went through untold hardships to pass the heavenly tribulation, only to have a brick smack in the back of the head, then it would be a great injustice. D. Shirtion naturally understood this possibility. Back then, when Medusa was facing the demonic tribulation of the form transformation, she was targeted by the Leaf family's ancestor. She was almost hit in the head by that brick, and it was a huge golden brick. She had nowhere to go even if she had been wronged. Therefore, the incident back then taught them a lesson. As the saying goes, fall into the pit, learn from your mistakes. In order to prevent the incident from happening again, D. Shirtion and the others did not hesitate to come and protect them. To prevent the appearance of those sinister villains who wanted to take advantage of the situation. Bang, bang, bang. The ground was shaking. The Black Ape King had already arrived at the valley. His body had shrunk significantly on purpose, but he still looked 4 to 5 meters tall like a black diamond. The hair all over his body was coiled up, and the firm muscles on his chest gave people a feeling of strength. The Black Ape King reached out and hammered his chest a few times, and dull sounds kept coming out. When his bell-like eyes saw D. Shirton and the red-crowned Crane King, he could not help but grin and call out cheerfully, Brother D, Crane King, you guys came faster than me. I haven't seen you for a while. Brother D, I heard that you have a group of monkeys in your myriad demon valley who know how to make wine. When the Demon King passes the demon tribulation, why don't we go to your place and have a drink? As he spoke, his eyes shone. He stuck out his tongue and licked his lips, almost drooling. This black eye was also a guy who liked to drink. Unfortunately, he was born a gorilla and did not have the talent to make wine, so he could not make good wine. In the Southern Barbarian, there was also a group of monkeys who knew how to make wine. This guy would often sneak a drink when he had nothing to do. When a monkey saw him, they would immediately think of a way to divert the good wine away. This guy was completely marked as a scourge. If the Ape King is free, D. Shirtion welcomes you. D. Shirtion smiled indifferently and nodded. Count me in. Just as he finished speaking, a golden lion with 3 heads on its neck appeared in the valley. Of these 3 heads, the eyes of the 2 on the left and right were always closed and never opened. Only the one in the middle was normal. Overall, it looked unusually fierce. It was the Golden Fur Lion King. He had also arrived as expected. That sentence seemed to be a response to D. Shirtion. The way it looked at him was vaguely different from back then. Swoosh! A colorful brilliance quickly flashed across the sky. A colorful and graceful figure suddenly descended from the sky. Her graceful and perfect figure was exposed under the colorful clothes. Medusa held the strange treasure mirror in her hand and calmly glanced at Shirtion and the others. She said indifferently, "You can come because you did not forget Sister She's care for you. Okay, now is not the time to reminisce. You all spread out. You must grasp all the corners of the valley in your hands. There can't be any blind spots. This demon tribulation is very important to Sister She. Absolutely nothing can affect Sister She's tribulation. Even if there is an external tribulation, you must block it." In the sky, the tribulation clouds were getting denser and denser. The pitch-black clouds hung in the sky. Countless lightning flashed faster and faster. The mighty pressure became more condensed and terrifying. The petals of many flowers in the valley withered rapidly. However, at the moment when they withered, they did their best to release all of their essence and chi. They rushed toward Shenxi. The 19th demon tribulation was about to begin. Medusa was already the only demon clan in the southern barbarian who condensed an inner core other than Shenxi. At this moment, she gave orders in an orderly manner. The Black Ape King and the others all understood that no mistakes were allowed at this moment. They began to spread out in all directions and distributed in every corner of the valley. Shirtion directly guarded in front of the front exit of the valley. Hua and the others all spread out. Their eyes were shining as they constantly scanned the surroundings. Wah! In the sky, an unusually unpleasant and hoarse cry sounded continuously. Looking into the distance, a black flock of crows had also arrived under the lead of the Underworld Raven King. The Underworld Raven King saw the scene in the valley and cried out loudly. Suddenly, the flock of crows circled in the sky for a while and quickly divided into 9 groups. They circled in all directions of the valley and guarded the sky near the valley. Crack! Within the tribulation clouds, thunderous roars resounded unceasingly. Every sound was like the roar of the heavens. A terrifying pressure descended from the heavens. This was the might of the heavens. The terrifying aura seemed to have completely solidified the space around the tribulation clouds. I hope we can survive this tribulation this time. Chun-Shi raised his head and looked at the tribulation cloud. Countless lightning flashed in the tribulation cloud. He knew that the tribulation cloud was brewing and accumulating power. Once it finished accumulating, it would be the time for the heavenly tribulation to descend. Looking at the situation, he was afraid that it would not be long. From a moment the tribulation cloud appeared, she clearly felt that there seemed to be a mysterious power in the tribulation cloud that had completely locked onto her. As long as the aura was still there, the tribulation cloud would never disappear. If she could not move fast enough, she would be struck into pieces. She also saw the arrival of Shirtion and the others. She secretly sighed in her heart. All these years of kindness were indeed not in vain. Senior sister, this is the Southern Barbarian. Are we really going to go in and capture a monster king? We may not be able to do such a thing. That's right, senior sister. In my opinion, we should capture a few monsters back and earn enough contribution points to exchange for cultivation resources. It's still a bit dangerous for us to go up against this kind of monster king. Why don't we just forget about it? At this time, there was a mountain peak near the Southern Barbarian. This mountain peak towered high, and the trees below were dense. However, there were no trees at the peak, and it was bare. However, there was a group of 9 cultivators standing on the mountain peak. The leader was actually a woman, and this woman was brimming with a heroic spirit. The expression on her face was unusually arrogant. He looked at the crowd of living beings as if he was looking at ants. Obviously, this girl was the senior sister that this group of cultivators were talking about. In addition to her, there were 8 people, 5 men and 3 women. The similarity was that they all looked very young. The women were all very beautiful in the secular world. They looked very pleasing to the eye. Forget it? This is a great opportunity in front of us. Look, the girl cast a disdainful glance at the words of the cultivators behind her. She pointed at the southern barbarian with a look of confidence and said, "The thunder in the sky above the southern barbarian is incessant, and the pressure it emits is so terrifying. I'm sure that the Monster King is going through the 9 levels monster tribulation after the monster clan's form transformation monster tribulation. No matter which level it is, if you can't pass it, your soul will definitely be destroyed by the heavenly tribulation. Even if you pass it, you will definitely be seriously injured and on the verge of death. No matter which level it is, we can go in and gain considerable benefits. Moreover, look at what this is." The girl looked full of confidence. She stretched out her jade-like hand, and with a flash of light, a sparkling silk net appeared in her hand. Could this be the legendary in verse, the universe demon binding net that our Thousand Beast sect only has 3 pieces? A series of exclamations sounded instantly. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 244. Elda Senior Sister, Master really thinks highly of you. He even gave you such a treasure. That's great. Legend has it that this net is cast using the inescapable net technique. Even if a monster that has condensed an inner core enters the net, it will have to obediently surrender. No wonder Senior Sister is so confident in dealing with the Southern Barbarian Demon King. It turns out that you have such a treasure in hand. A woman said enviously. Her gaze swept back and forth on the net from time to time. Not only her, but all the other cultivators looked at the girl in the lead with surprise and envy. This group of people could be said to be the #1 enemy in the eyes of the Demon Clan. They were the disciples of the Thousand Beast sect who had always been regarded as the god of plagues, jinxes, and even enemies. What did the Thousand Beast sect rely on to become rich? What did they rely on to stand tall in the immortal cultivation world? What did they rely on to become a top sect and receive the respect of countless cultivators? It was none other than capturing spirit beasts, spirits, and even demonic beasts of the Demon Clan. They used special methods to enslave them and then sell them in exchange for huge profits. It could be said that the reason why the Thousand Beast sect was able to remain so prosperous was completely built on the flesh and blood of the Demon Clan. It could be said that they were an existence similar to an executioner. For a long time, countless monster clans had wanted to destroy the Thousand Beast sect, but they had been unable to do so. After so many years, the Thousand Beast sect had absorbed enough blood from the monster clans and cultivated a strong foundation. They were simply afraid of the revenge of ordinary demon clans. It was fine if they didn't go, but if they did, they could capture them. It saved them a lot of effort. When it came to capturing demon clans, the Thousand Beast sect did indeed have a set of terrifying methods. The Thousand Beast sect was divided into a total of 4 generations. The first generation was above the nascent soul stage. The second generation was above the core formation stage. The third generation was the foundation establishment stage, and the fourth generation was the chi refinement stage. As for those above the nascent soul stage, almost all of them were in seclusion in their cave abodes. It was very difficult to see them all year round. Therefore, the core formation stage and nascent soul stage were the backbone of the sect. This group of cultivators in front of him could definitely frighten those rogue cultivators and small cultivator families. They were all second-generation disciples. All of them were core formation stage cultivators. As for the young girl, she was the senior sister of the second-generation disciples. Her cultivation level was the highest at the late stage of core formation. The others were all between the early and mid-stage of core formation. With this kind of cultivation, they were not very old. Almost none of them were over 50 years old. From this, it could be seen that there was simply no comparison between the cultivation families and those big sections. Back in the day, the Li clan of Lingnan was considered one of the top cultivation clans. However, they only had one late core formation stage ancestor. Who knows how many years that ancestor had spent in cultivation to reach this level? Compared to the other cultivation clans, the Li clan wasn't even fit to carry their shoes. The difference was so great that it was difficult to estimate. If it weren't for this inverse the universe demon binding net, I wouldn't have dared to target the Demon King. Now, even if the Demon King is strong, it won't be too strong. Even if it's stronger than us, it won't be much stronger. It's also at the critical juncture of the tribulation. Even the heavens are helping us. If we can really capture a Demon King, not only will we be able to make a name for ourselves in the immortal realm, we can also exchange it for a spiritual pill, like the nascent cultivating pill, which will greatly increase our chances of forming a nascent soul. This is an opportunity, and I, Wang Feng'er, will definitely not miss it. Wang Feng'er's face revealed a resolute expression. Clearly, she was quite determined. If one wanted to obtain better resources in the cultivation clans, they would have to contribute to the cultivation clans. This contribution was to capture all kinds of spiritual beasts and even demon clans. This was because the Myriad Beasts sect relied on these spiritual beasts to exchange for all kinds of resources. Therefore, the disciples of the Myriad Beasts sect were destined to go out and search for spiritual beasts from time to time. All right, since Senior Apprentice Sister has the inverse the universe demon binding net, then even if it's a Demon King this time, it'll be a piece of cake for you. Following Senior Apprentice Sister will definitely not go wrong. Back then, Senior Apprentice Sister discovered that white tiger in the secular world. Everyone in the sect was envious of it. That was a rare variant. I heard that even Master was planning to raise that white tiger in the direction of the legendary 4 cardinal holy beast, the white tiger. Perhaps in the future, the cultivation clans will have a holy beast guarding them. Moreover, Senior Sister's senses towards spiritual beasts are extremely sharp. Since Senior Sister wants to go in, Junior Sister will follow Senior Sister today. The girls' eyes darted around as they spoke in unison. Obviously, they had made up their minds. The other male disciples also agreed one after another. They seemed to have extraordinary confidence in the inverse, the universe, demon binding net. Well, we'll wait here now. When the heavenly tribulation is almost done, we'll go in. At that time, we'll pull open the demon binding net and set up an inescapable net. We'll definitely catch them in one go, Wang Feng'er said with an arrogant face. She stood on a mountain peak and stared at the southern wilderness. This 19 demonic tribulations was really too powerful. Even outside the southern wilderness, they could still see it clearly. No one dared to touch the heavenly tribulation easily. They also didn't dare to rush over it this time. Once they entered the range of the heavenly tribulation, they would be treated as helpers by the heavenly tribulation and be attacked together. That would really be a tragedy. Heavenly tribulation and external tribulation. What was a heavenly tribulation? The one above the 100 Flowers Valley was one. What was an external tribulation? Wang Feng'er's group of cultivators was an external tribulation. Rumble. The tribulation clouds were as black as ink. They were dark and oppressive. The terrifying pressure that came pouring down made people's hearts tremble. It was as if they couldn't breathe. It kept rolling, and countless lightning bolts burst out, turning the entire tribulation cloud into a thundercloud. The surrounding sky was as bright as day. It didn't look like the darkest scene before dawn at all. It's here. Although Di Shirtian was responsible for guarding, his eyes were always paying attention to the situation of the tribulation cloud. When he saw the tribulation cloud suddenly burst out with a powerful pressure, his heart skipped a beat. He immediately realized that this 19 demonic tribulations was about to begin after all. His eyes were also looking at the scene in the valley without blinking. This was the most rare scene. If he observed it carefully, he could have some experience when he faced the heavenly tribulation in the future and be more prepared. Crack! A terrifying, thunderous roar that resounded through the entire southern barbarian region violently rang out. As the sound rang out, the tribulation clouds violently churned and split open in the middle. A bolt of heavenly lightning that emitted crimson flames and contained vast heavenly might smash down on Chun-Chi's head without the slightest bit of mercy. There were countless lightning bolts flashing in the flames. Heavenly fire, lightning tribulation. Sister, she is a grass spirit and is most afraid of heavenly fire. This 19 demonic tribulations is actually heavenly fire, lightning tribulation. How unfair is the heavens to us demon clans? When Medusa saw the descending heavenly tribulation, her expression suddenly changed, and she spat out indignantly. Vaguely, she had the intention of scolding the heavens. One had to know that the grass spirit was most afraid of flames. Heavenly fire was a lightning tribulation mixed with the pressure of the heavens and earth, which was even more terrifying. It was simply the nemesis of the grass spirit. For Chunxi, this was a huge test. Go. Even at this time, Chunxi still looked unusually calm. Her face was still graceful and elegant. With a wave of her hand, the pink petal that she had been holding between her fingers flew up instantly. Under the heavenly tribulation, she could only defend. After the petal flew out, it didn't fly too high. It just appeared above her head, emitting bursts of pink brilliance. In this brilliance, the petal rapidly grew. In the blink of an eye, it had become the size of several large millstones. It covered her head. The enlarged petals looked incomparably gorgeous, as if they were the most perfect silk. It sheltered Chunxi under it. Bang! Without any hesitation, the heavenly lightning smashed into the petals that were blocking in front of him. In an instant, the petals burst forth with countless pink lights. Inside them, one could feel that they contained an enormous amount of the essence of 100 flowers. Then, like water ripples that kept spreading out, it started to vibrate in circles. It wanted to continuously disperse the power of the heavenly lightning. She didn't know how the petal was formed, but it did have a magical power. The heavenly fire, which was originally the nemesis of the grass spirit, was gently extinguished by the circles of pink brilliance. It was even scattered to other places and scattered into thousands of streaks. When it landed on the ground, it exploded and created countless terrifying deep pits. The first heavenly tribulation was neutralized so easily. There are 9 heavenly tribulations every time, and this is the first one. There are 8 more. Chunxi thought to herself. Whether it was the 19 heavenly tribulation or the 29 heavenly tribulations, there was the word 9 behind it. 9 was the extreme number. Every time the heavenly tribulation descended, there would be 9 heavenly tribulations. If one passed all of them, it would be considered a success. However, one shouldn't think that one could ignore the heavenly tribulation just because they passed the first one. In fact, each heavenly tribulation was stronger than the previous one. To the demonic beasts, that was a terrifying attack that they could not withstand. However, to the dawn beasts, it was something that they could withstand. Gotcha! Another crisp sound rang out. As the tribulation clouds churned, a bolt of heavenly fire divine lightning that was more than twice as thick as the one before struck down violently with boundless pressure. Wherever this bolt of heavenly fire divine lightning passed, even space would distort and tremble unceasingly. Countless grass spirit in the surroundings were crushed and fell to the ground. Wong. Chunxi's expression was calm. Her jade-like hands quickly formed a seal. When the seal was formed, a mystical flower formed in front of her and quickly imprinted on the petal above her head. When the seal entered, the petal burst out with a strong brilliance. In this brilliance, one could faintly see countless flowers blooming. Bang! The heavenly thunder struck again and blasted on the petal. Countless lightning bolts and flames crazily swept over the entire petal, wanting to blast this petal that dared to block the heavenly thunder into pieces. However, this petal was really a magical item. The heavenly thunder still couldn't break through the petal's defense. It only crushed the brilliance on the petal. It didn't damage its foundation. The first few heavenly thunders weren't really the strongest. The key was the last few heavenly tribulations, which had the power to destroy heaven and earth. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 245. Each heavenly tribulation was stronger than the previous one. In the end, the power of the heavenly tribulation would continue to increase. Once one could not withstand it, the result would be death in body and soul. In order to pass the 19th demonic tribulation, the kingdom of Dawn had prepared for many years. The flower petal, suspended above her head to block the heavenly thunder, was specially prepared to deal with today's situation. It was made from the first petals of countless flowers in the valley that bloomed at the time of their birth. It was refined into this flower petal by gathering and refining it into this flower petal. All these years, new petals were fused with it every day after day, year after year, until now it was unknown how many types and petals had been fused into this petal. The petals of hundreds of flowers were refined with a secret method. This petal was the first petal of a flower when it first bloomed. It contained the largest and purest chi of 100 flowers. Flowers were the most delicate. This petal contained the softest power in the world. It was like soft water. No matter how strong the power, when it landed on it, it would be dissolved into nothingness. Heavenly tribulation was the strongest power in the world. It was the strongest thunderbolt. The thunderbolt was mixed with the power of heaven and earth. Even the hardest rock in front of it would be smashed into powder in an instant. Softness versus toughness. Whichever was stronger would be able to last until the end. This petal was a treasure that she had been preparing for countless years to prepare for the heavenly tribulation. The power it contained could easily withstand the first few heavenly tribulations. The heavenly fire and heavenly thunder bombarded the petal. The petal trembled continuously, dispersing the power of the heavenly thunder in all directions. Rumble. Tion and the others stared at the situation in the valley. Although the heavenly tribulation did not distinguish between the person who was undergoing the heavenly tribulation and would attack once they entered the range of the heavenly tribulation, whether it was Tion or Medusa, once they realized that their lives were in danger, they were prepared to do their best to save Qin. In the blink of an eye, 6 consecutive heavenly thunders fell one after another, but they were all blocked by the petal. However, the price he had to pay for this was terrifying cracks that mysteriously appeared on the petal. That petal won't be able to hold on much longer. Qian's gaze landed on the petal. Seeing the countless cracks that had appeared on it, a glint of light flashed through his eyes. He knew very well that with the power of the heavenly tribulations continuously increasing, he would immediately be blown to smithereens when the 7th bolt of heavenly tribulation descended. If he did not have any other methods, the following heavenly tribulations would be even more difficult to endure. Crack! The tribulation clouds in the sky were rolling more and more intensely. Countless lightning bolts were flickering crazily within the clouds. The lightning bolts intertwined with each other and emitted a mighty power of the heavens and the earth. The terrifying pressure made the entire valley feel as if it was in a completely different world. It was truly terrifying. A terrifying roar resounded from within the tribulation clouds. Immediately, streaks of crimson heavenly tribulation, as thick as water buckets, turned into balls of fiery lightning and fell from the sky. There were hundreds of balls of lightning, and each ball of lightning contained a terrifying power that was several times more powerful than the 6th. If such a ball of lightning were to fall anywhere else, 1,000 zhang tall mountain would instantly be turned into ashes. Flower spirits, 100 flower essence, lend me a hand. 100 flower formation, rise. Chunxi's expression was solemn. His hands quickly formed a series of hand seals, and he shouted softly. The seals were instantly launched into the valley. Circles of strange, colorful light continuously burst out from the 100 flower formation in the valley. Those were the essence of the 100 flower formation. These essence of the 100 flower formation were all released and intertwined with each other, turning into a colorful scene. It was incomparably magical. These essence of the 100 flower formation rose and condensed in midair of the valley. In the blink of an eye, it turned into strange flowers that bloomed one after another. Peonies, roses, azaleas, and so on. All kinds of flowers condensed in an instant. These flowers were all condensed from the essence of the 100-flower formation. Every single one of them was breathtakingly gorgeous. In the blink of an eye, a sea of 100-flower formation formed above Chun-Shi's head. The world of flowers. Countless flowers were blooming and withering, constantly reincarnating. This was a great formation, the 100-flower formation. The formation was operating quickly. This was Chun-Shi's second method to deal with the heavenly tribulation. The Great Formation had been set up for an unknown period of time. It relied on the endless essence of the countless flowers in the valley to support the operation of the Great Formation. This formation was a strange formation among defensive formations. By watching the flowers bloom and wither, one would be able to see the entire process of the flowers from their birth to their withering with a single glance. Not only was it strange, it was even more miraculous. The reason it was called a strange formation among defensive formations was because the defensive power of the formation was the flowers that filled the sky. As long as the flowers didn't all perish in an instant, even if only a single flower remained, the formation wouldn't be destroyed. In the blink of an eye, it would be restored to its original state, and thousands upon thousands of flowers would appear again. It covered the entire valley. It was a marvelous formation. This formation was part of the legacy Chun she had acquired from goddess Many Flowers. Ruumble. It took a long time to describe, but in reality, all of this happened in the blink of an eye. Countless heavenly lightning balls bombarded down in an instant, emitting a terrifying pressure that caused people to feel a chill in their hearts. With a bang, the heavenly lightning balls smashed onto the flower petal. Immediately, the flower petal that was originally on the verge of shattering also completed its mission at this moment, turning into ashes under the heavenly lightning balls. Ruumble. Hundreds of balls of lightning smashed into the 100-flower array. The power contained in the balls of lightning immediately erupted. Lightning and fire intertwined and swept out in all directions. Within the array, countless blooming flowers were forcibly reduced to ashes by the lightning and fire. They were transformed into quintessence energy. The entire sea of flowers was roiling violently. Dazzling flowers intertwined with lightning and fire. Truly, it was difficult to meet and difficult to part. The east wind is powerless, and 100 flowers are gone. In the blink of an eye, countless flowers were destroyed by the lightning and fire. Regardless of whether it was lightning or fire, they were both natural enemies of plants and vegetation. However, the 100-flower formation lived up to its reputation as a strange formation. As soon as the flowers were destroyed, the quintessence energy in the valley poured into the formation, causing new flowers to rapidly take shape. On one side was destruction, and on the other was rebirth. The scene of destruction and rebirth was like the cycle of life and death. The power of the heavenly tribulation was indeed strong, but no matter how strong the power contained within it would be constantly consumed. Furthermore, every time it fell, it would be one bolt, and there would be no new replenishment. However, the formation drew on the essence of the 100 flowers that had been in the valley for countless years, and it was almost endless. After the sea of flowers in the formation was destroyed over 100 times, the originally violent lightning fire was like a small boat in the sea, slowly being destroyed in the formation. They were completely exhausted. What a miraculous formation! With this formation, we should be able to hold on for a while. When Di Shirtian saw the 100-flower formation, he could not help but be amazed. These formations that could communicate with the power of heaven and earth were indeed miraculous. In his mind, he could not help but recall the 8 incomplete maps that he had obtained in the Withered Bone Wilderness. 7 of them had been combined, and there was still one that had not been combined. That formation map was not complete. When I go back, I'll have to explore the mystery of the formation map. Who knows, it might allow me to have another trick. A thought flashed through his mind, but he kept in mind. The 100-flower formation? With the help of the quintessence energy that has been accumulated in the valley for countless years, it does have the ability to resist the heavenly tribulation. However, it can only resist the first 8 lightning bolts. The last one is the inner demon tribulation, and no formation can resist it. At that time, it will be the time when her original body and the elf body are completely merged. When her original body appears, watch my means. Since the beginning of the heavenly tribulation, perfected Lord Ku Rong, who is hiding in the ancient tree, had been carefully observing the situation of the tribulation. He saw that the 100-flower formation had blocked the heavenly tribulation outside, and Chun Shi, who was in the valley, had only attacked twice. The demon tribulation did not hurt her at all. With such strength, it was clear that she was indeed a powerhouse in the demon clan. However, he knew that the first 8 lightning bolts of the demon tribulation were easy to overcome, but the last one was different. It was called the inner demon tribulation, also known as the karma tribulation. The reason why this tribulation evolved was that it was triggered by the karmic tribulation of the living beings. When the karma tribulation was deep, it meant that all kinds of killings or immoral acts would be added to the karma tribulation. At that time, whether the inner demon triggered was strong or weak depended on the amount of karma tribulation. If it was strong, the inner demon would be stronger, and if it was weak, it would be much easier to overcome. Junior brothers and sisters, the heavenly tribulation is almost done. It's time for us to set off. Whether we can return to the sect and get the important task depends on this. Let's go. Wang Finger opened her phoenix eyes and looked at the situation of the heavenly tribulation proudly. When she saw that there were still 7 lightning bolts and 2 more to go, she immediately said, "Okay, we'll follow eldest senior sister's decision." The cultivators behind her looked at each other and said in unison, "Clang!" A crimson flying sword shot out from Wang Finger's body. As soon as it flew into the air, it immediately became huge. With a leap, she jumped on the flying sword. With a whoosh, the group of 9 people all followed her and quickly broke through the air toward the southern wilderness. 9 core formation cultivators, all of whom possessed all sorts of secret techniques to deal with the demon clan. Their terror to the demon clan was unparalleled. The speed of the core formation cultivators was not slow at all. As soon as they entered the southern wilderness, their flying swords broke through the air and quickly rushed toward the 100-flower valley. What was worth mentioning was that each of them had taken out a strange pill that was about the size of an egg at some point in time. The color of the pill was snow white, and it looked quite pleasing to the eye. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 246. Wah, wah, wah. In the 100 Flowers Valley, the 8th heavenly tribulation smashed down heavily. This time, there were thousands of heavenly thunderballs. Each of them contained a terrifying power that could instantly turn a nascent soul cultivator into dust. The heavenly tribulation fell and entangled with the 100 Flowers formation with a bang. The bursts of lightning and fire burst out, instantly turning the entire southern wilderness as bright as day. It was a scene of doomsday. However, at this moment, the underworld ravens that had been guarding in all directions let out that strange hoarse and unpleasant cry at this moment. Their voices were unusually urgent. They seemed very anxious. "King, look, there are immortal cultivators coming from outside the southern wilderness. It looks like they're coming for the 100 Flowers Valley." Eagle Kong had been hovering high in the sky, constantly paying attention to the surrounding situation. With the sharpness of its eagle eyes, it almost instantly saw Wang Finger and the other cultivators in the air approaching here. "Everyone, there are foreign cultivators coming for the 100 Flowers Valley." At the same time, the Underworld Raven King also spat out a sentence coldly. His 2 eyes shot out a terrifying cold gaze without a trace of vitality. There were wisps of gray death aura constantly rising from his body. "Wah!" He let out a long cry, and immediately the scattered underworld crows quickly gathered behind him. Almost in the blink of an eye, they formed a black mass of underworld crows, hovering in the sky like a huge dark cloud. However, there was an unending aura of death bursting out from their bodies, intertwining and shooting out. Even Sakura and the others could feel a kind of unconsciously chilling intent on their bodies. Oomph. The human immortal cultivators are as despicable as before. Last time, they wanted to take advantage of Sister Medusa's tribulation to rob her and sneak attack her from behind. Now, they want to take advantage of Sister She's tribulation. Tion is right. It's because we demon clans have been too tolerant that this group of immortal cultivators are so unscrupulous. Could it be that they really want to take advantage of the decline of our demon clans? A ball of anger appeared in the eyes of the red-crowned Crane King. He said resentfully, "It doesn't matter how many of them come. Today, Old Black will smash them all into meat paste." The Black Ape King breathed out fire from its nostrils as it heavily pounded its fists on its chest, producing a series of muffled booms. Its entire body rose up into the air at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it grew to the size of a small mountain, reaching a height of 20 to 30 zhang. He was like a giant, and the air he breathed out turned into gusts of wind in front of him. His roar was like thunder. "Protect the valley. Do not let any cultivators enter the valley." Medusa coldly glanced at the 9 cultivators and said, "Don't leave a single one alive." Wang Fenger and company rode on their flying swords at lightning speed. It didn't take long for them to see Centauria Valley. They also saw all the monster kings in front of it. No matter how arrogant she couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat. Who is going through the tribulation inside? There are actually so many monster kings guarding here. Underworld ravens, so many underworld ravens, and 2 monster kings in human form. It seems like this is going to be dangerous. Eldest senior sister, look, that's a flock of underworld ravens in front. Legend has it that every underworld raven is the incarnation of the Grim Reaper. There are also monster kings in human form. If we rush in, I'm afraid we won't be able to get away with it. She wasn't the only one who saw it. The other cultivators also saw the scene in front of them and immediately began to retreat. Whether it was the underworld ravens or the monster kings in human form, they were not to be trifled with. Don't panic. Don't forget that we still have the bewitching powder in our hands. Under the influence of the bewitching powder, even monster kings will be affected. When the time comes, I'll use the inverse the universe demon binding net to seal the surroundings. First, we'll temporarily seal the flock of underworld ravens, then deal with the other monster kings one by one. There's no need to hesitate. Let's do it now. In the time it took to say a few words, Wang Fenger took the lead. With a twist of her wrist, she threw the strange pill in her hand at Tion and the other monster kings. The moment the pill was thrown, it emitted a strange light. Before it landed on the ground, there was a loud bang in the air. It suddenly exploded. After the pill exploded, a thick white smoke burst out in all directions at an unbelievable speed. In the blink of an eye, a large area was covered in white smoke. When Wang Fenger threw out the pills, the other cultivators also knew that there was no way out at this point. Without hesitation, they threw out the pills in their hands one after another. A huge cloud of white smoke burst out, completely covering the entire valley. Moreover, this white smoke seemed to have a life of its own. Once it spread out and came into contact with living creatures, it would rush into their bodies through the pores all over their bodies and quickly rush into their bodies. Not good. Everyone don't breathe in it. There's definitely something strange about this white smoke. Almost as soon as the white smoke appeared, Tion immediately realized that it must be something poisonous. This thing was almost the same as those poisonous gas bombs in his previous life. Therefore, when he saw it, he immediately held his breath. However, he didn't notice that the white smoke didn't just enter through the mouth and nose. It also entered the body through the pores. By the time he noticed it, a lot of white smoke had already entered his body. Despicable immortal cultivator. This white smoke is poisonous. I don't know why my strength has been suppressed so much. Simply despicable and shameless. The Black Ape King let out an earth-shattering roar and roared. Despicable person, I, Old Black, will slap you to death." The white smoke appeared quickly and dissipated quickly. In almost the blink of an eye, it dissipated into the air. However, at this moment, Tion and the others were more or less infected by the white smoke. They could clearly feel that a part of the demonic chi in their bodies had been sealed in an instant. Their cultivation had been suppressed by a lot. Tion didn't inhale much, but he also felt that 20% of his cultivation had been sealed. That white smoke was truly vicious and terrifying. However, they didn't know that the pill was called bewitching powder. It was a type of pill that the Thousand Beasts sect had researched for countless years. It wasn't meant to be eaten, but used directly. Once true essence was poured into it, it would explode. After the explosion, it would produce this bewitching powder. Once inhaled, one's cultivation would more or less be suppressed. This was a killing move that the Thousand Beasts sect had specially developed to deal with the demonic chi. Who knew how many demonic chi had fallen under this despicable method? The reason why Wang Fenger was so confident in finding trouble with the demonic chi was because of this bewitching powder. Inescapable net, bind the underworld raven. Wang Fenger was really experienced. Almost at the same time that she threw out the bewitching powder, she also threw out the inverse universe demon binding net in an instant. This net was made of an unknown material. As soon as it was thrown out, it immediately expanded rapidly in bursts of treasure light. In the blink of an eye, it had already covered the sky and the sun. In a flash, it bound the Underworld Raven King and a huge group of Underworld Ravens in a world. It looked like an inescapable net. It covered the Underworld Ravens. Bang! The Black Ape King was furious. Although his demonic chi was suppressed a lot, his eyes were spitting fire with anger. When he saw a female cultivator in front of him, his eyes were wide open in anger. He didn't have the slightest intention of showing mercy to the fair sex. He stretched out his ape palm, as if he was pinching the sun and the moon, and fiercely slapped down on the female cultivator. With this slap, the space under his claws seemed to be completely frozen. It was turbulent, and the momentum was like Mount Tai pressing down. Kill! The Golden Fur Lion King let out an angry lion's roar. Its body expanded with a bang, and in an instant, it became more than 100 feet tall. Its 3 heads also became incomparably huge. It opened its mouth in the middle and sucked fiercely at a cultivator in the air. Immediately, a huge gust of wind swept up in front of it. The terrifying suction force-bound that cultivator, bringing him into its mouth, and was about to swallow him. It was actually going to swallow that cultivator into its stomach in one go. It was incomparably fierce. Howl! The red-crowned crane king didn't hesitate at all. It flapped its wings and flew high into the sky. Its snow-white feathers were like sharp arrows, carrying a sharp cold light as they pounced towards the few cultivators. It seemed that they had suffered a loss from Bai Yin at the beginning. However, this was just a little suppression of their cultivation. How could it scare these monster kings who had lived for God knows how many years? Not only were they not afraid, but they also displayed an incomparably fierce battle strength. They pounced towards this group of cultivators. The battle, almost as soon as it began, entered a white-hot state. There was not a trace of delay at all. Bang! Tian's right hand appeared on the hilt of Tiger Soul like lightning. With a flick of his wrist, Tiger Soul was suddenly unsheathed with a crisp sound. 2 threatening cold lights suddenly shot out from his eyes and landed on the leader, Wang Fenger. "It's you." A sentence containing an unknown amount of hatred came out of Tian's mouth stiffly. Looking at Wang Fenger, his eyes were so cold that it seemed to be able to freeze the entire air. A wave of cold air quickly burst out in all directions like a tidal wave. Within the cold air, there was a terrifying murderous intent. The cold murderous intent almost instantly locked onto Wang Fenger completely. A ruthless aura brewed in his body. Hua and the others seemed to know that Tian had chosen Wang Fenger as his opponent. Without prior agreement, they all looked for other cultivators to fight. In the midst of that ruthless aura, It was as if Di Shirtian and Wang Fenger were the only two left in the world. Clang! Wang Fenger formed a sword seal, and the flying sword flew back into her hand. She looked at Di Shirtian with a puzzled expression and raised her head arrogantly. "You're from the Demon Clan." "I, Wang Fenger, don't know you." "Oomph. Where are my mother and little brother?" Di Shirtian's ruthless aura crazily surged out from his heart. He pointed Tiger Soul at the sky. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 247. At this moment, Di Shirtian's eyes were so cold that it almost froze the air in front of him. Oppressive hatred spewed out from his eyes without any concealment. A wave of anger continuously gathered in his chest, and in the blink of an eye, it reached an uncontrollable state. He pointed Tiger Soul at Wang Fenger, and a ruthless, murderous aura burst forth from the saber. Saber hums continuously burst forth from the saber. "It's her. It must be her." He couldn't help but recall the scene in Tiger Hill before he stepped onto the path of demon cultivation. It was a scene that he would never forget no matter what. He could only lie powerlessly in a patch of dense weeds and watch as the white tiger's mother and his two younger siblings were caught in a large net. They let out mournful roars in the net. The unforgettable pain brought about by the separation of flesh and blood was something that he could never forget in his life. His ears would constantly ring with the mournful howls from that time. It was also at that time that two figures were deeply imprinted in his mind, a man and a woman. At that time, he did not know who they were or where they came from. He could only remember their appearances so that he could seek revenge in the future. Later on, he learned from Little White and the young girl Zifei that they were brought to a place called the Thousand Beasts Sect. Those two must be disciples of the Thousand Beasts Sect. Even if he turned into ashes, he would not forget that this female cultivator called Wang Fenger in front of him was the culprit who had captured the white tiger mother and her family of 3 in Tiger Hill. How deep was the impression from back then? He could clearly recognize Wang Fenger with a single glance. The demonic aura in his body almost exploded on the spot, wildly circulating in the meridians in his body. Waves of extremely dense demonic aura surged into the sky like smoke signals. As it continued to tumble, it vaguely formed a pitch-black tiger, which roared at the sky. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes blaze with hatred. However, Wang Fenger did not recognize Di Shirtian. Back at Tiger Hill, she was already overjoyed when she caught the white tigers. She thought that she had caught all of them and captured the entire tiger den in one fell swoop. How could she be wary of other tigers nearby? It had to be known that tigers usually gave birth to 2 children at once. It was extremely rare for a tiger to give birth to 3 children at once. There must be a strange beast among them. Your mother and younger brother? What are you talking about? Wang Fenger could feel the hatred and murderous intent rising from Di Shirtian's body. Even though she was in the late stage of the core formation realm, she still felt a sense of trepidation. But after all, her cultivation was only one step away from the nascent soul realm. Her cultivation was so high that she was even stronger than Li Kanglin, who attacked Medusa. How could she dare to go to Liangshan without being cautious? Wang Fenger dared to rush into the southern wilderness. Her cultivation was so strong that it could be imagined that she must have extraordinary reliance in her hands. Even in the face of so many monster kings, such as Di Shirtian, she still did not have the slightest intention of retreating. She was unusually decisive in her killing. In an instant, she used the bewildering demon smoke to suppress a part of the monster cultivators present. The vital essence in her body circulated. For some reason, the clothes on her body turned fiery red in an instant, turning into a robe that constantly glowed with red light. Not only did the robe not lose its beauty, but there was also a faint fire phoenix circling around the robe, making it seem even more noble. This robe was also a rare treasure called the Phoenix robe. When worn, it had the magical effect of avoiding fire. Even in strong flames, one could walk freely as if they were on flat ground. It was really amazing and extraordinary. Not only that, but it also had a magical effect of protecting the body. As soon as the red light rose, it immediately blocked the cold, killing intent outside the body. She held the crimson, flying sword in her hand. This sword was very strange. It looked like the shape of a phoenix. It was strange. Hearing D. Shirtyen's words, she couldn't help but cast a strong doubt between her eyebrows. This was the first time she came to the southern wilderness. It was impossible for her to have any enmity with the southern wilderness monster clan before. It really made her extremely puzzled. Did you forget that nearly 3 years ago, you once went to the Tiger Hill mountain range and captured 1 big and 2 small? 3 tigers in a mountain range, 2 of which were white tigers. Did you really forget? D. Shirtyen spat out his words word by word. Anyone could hear that every single word seemed to be spat out from the gaps of his teeth. Within every single word, there was an unforgettable hatred that was engraved in his bones. From the moment he saw Wang Fenger, the hatred buried deep in his heart was completely triggered. There was no way to suppress it anymore. Are you the male tiger of that group of tigers? I was wondering why I didn't see the male tiger at that time. It turned out that it really ran away. A flash of inspiration flashed through Wang Fenger's mind like a flash of lightning. She immediately remembered what happened in the Tiger Hill. That time, she was able to capture the white tiger. When she returned to the sect, she was praised by the elders of the sect and was given many treasures. The Phoenix Empress robe on her body was one of the rewards she received at that time. Because the Thousands Beast sect was using a secret method to see if they could cultivate the legendary 4 sacred beasts with infinite power: Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise. The white tiger captured at that time was not the legendary white tiger, but the naturally born white tiger more or less had the bloodline of the sacred beast of white tiger. If it was stimulated in a unique way, it was possible to transform into the legendary sacred beast. After a long time of cultivation, the Thousands Beast sect might have the legendary 4 sacred beasts to protect the sect. In that case, it would be difficult for the sect to be destroyed. When Wang Fenger brought the white tiger back, it was naturally of great help to this plan. All kinds of rewards were incomparably generous. To be able to have the cultivation of the late core formation realm at such a young age, the reward from back then were also very important. I am the head of the white tiger. D. Shirtyen said coldly. What? You are only the son of that white tiger? In just 3 years, how can you have such cultivation? Impossible. At this time, Wang Fenger could not help but let out a cry of surprise. She had a very deep understanding of the demon clan. Naturally, she knew that the cultivation of the demon clan was much slower than that of the natural Taoism aptitude of humans. Without hundreds or thousands of years, ordinary spiritual beasts could not become demon beasts or even condense an inner core. But Sakura, who was in front of him, had made consecutive breakthroughs in just 3 years' time and reached such an unbelievable cultivation. The speed of his cultivation was simply unprecedented. Where are my mother and brother now? If anything happens to them, I swear to destroy the Thousands Beast sect. D. Shirtyen's voice was bone-chilling. In this short period of time, the aura on his body had accumulated to a peak state. The tiger soul in his hand emitted a fierce, murderous aura. You want to find your mother? To tell you the truth, your mother and brother were killed long ago. If you want to find them, go to the underworld. Phoenix feather incinerates the heavens. Wang Fenger chuckled coldly. Her gaze towards D. Shirtyen was filled with an awe-inspiring, murderous intent. Her hands quickly formed a spiritual art. Once the spiritual art was formed, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in front of her suddenly tumbled rapidly. Waves of fire spiritual chi rapidly condensed in the air in a mysterious trajectory. Ow! In midair, the cry of a phoenix that was filled with the aura of a king appeared out of nowhere. As the phoenix cry sounded, a strange scene appeared in the sky. In midair, a large amount of spiritual chi of heaven and earth condensed together and formed feathers that emitted a fiery glow. These feathers were not the feathers of an ordinary bird, but the plume of a fire phoenix. Every plume contained the terrifying fire of the phoenix. Although there was only a small trace of the heavenly fire of the phoenix in the plume, it was still able to burn everything. If an ordinary cultivator was touched by the flames on the plume, he would be burned on the spot. Without any means, his entire body would be completely turned into ashes. This was a spell, and its grade was extremely high. It could be said to be a high-grade spell. This spell was not like the Imperial Wind spell or the Fireball spell. It was a spell that possessed great power. As one's cultivation level increased, one's understanding of the spell would increase. If a cultivator above the nascent soul stage used this spell, it was rumored that it could instantly boil the water in a lake until it dried up. With Wong Finger's late-stage, core formation stage cultivation, the power displayed by this spell was enough to threaten a nascent soul stage cultivator. Once these phoenix feathers were formed, there were hundreds and thousands of them. They all emitted a vermilion heavenly fire of the phoenix. Like sharp arrows, they fell fiercely towards Di Shirtian, covering the sky and covering the earth. The attack directly covered a radius of 100 meters. Her first move was such a ferocious killing move. It was obvious that Wang Feng'er was determined to kill Di Shirtian. In her heart, she thought, this demon cannot be allowed to live. To be able to obtain such great power in a short 3 years. If he is given more time, I fear that in 10 years, or even 100 years, there will be no one in this world that can stop him. When that time comes, I fear that it will be my time to die. He will definitely die. Kill. Sakura's expression was ice cold. His eyes focused, and his left foot took a step forward. With this step, the aura from his entire body was like a tidal wave, fiercely spewing out. The ground under his feet trembled violently. Countless cracks, like a spider web, crazily burst out in all directions with his feet as the center. The blade moved with him. Following the momentum of this stomp, the tiger soul in his hand took advantage of the momentum. With a flick of his wrist, the tiger soul turned and swept out like lightning towards the blade above his head. Countless tyrannical golden rays of light appeared from the blade, and a 30 to 40 feet long terrifying blade light immediately burst out from the tiger soul. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 248. Tiger Soul Across the Sky. The golden light from the blade swept out in an instant. Although it was just an ordinary blade move, he had not been wasting his time in the past few years. He had fused the imprint of the peak understanding of power with his mind and continuously comprehended the peak feeling. He had also continuously comprehended the terrifying killing move, the death of the gods and demons. His understanding of blade techniques had improved by leaps and bounds. When he swung the tiger soul, he had a feeling that he could sense the trajectories of the heavens and earth. When he swung the blade, according to these trajectories, there would naturally be a mysterious power of the heavens and earth in the blade. Those trajectories were the trajectories of the heavens and earth. Following the trajectories, the power of the heavens and earth would naturally be applied to the blade. This was the embodiment of using a martial skill to trigger the power of the heavens and earth. Being able to reach this step meant that Di Shirtian's blade techniques had already started to transform into a battle technique. Although it was the simplest blade technique, it could touch the power of the heavens and earth. This was already no longer ordinary. When the blade swept out, as the tiger soul cut through the sky, the power contained in the blade increased tremendously with every inch the blade moved. In the heavens and earth, a mysterious power appeared in the blade as it danced. With the addition of the power of the heavens and earth, when the blade was swung out, It was as if the entire world was only filled with this resplendent blade light. Vaguely, all of the living beings who saw this saber had a feeling that they were unable to contend against it. Bang, bang, bang. The tiger soul's blade slashed towards the heavens and met the heavenly phoenix fire that could burn all things without backing down. The phoenix plume technique was a magical art. Magical arts were formed by triggering the power of the heavens and earth. It could be said that magical arts were the power of the heavens and earth. Shurtian's blade had already entered the realm of battle techniques. What was a battle skill? Martial cultivators were the most powerful group of cultivators because they had those powerful battle skills, which were also known as martial skills. Once they successfully cultivated their battle skills, every punch and every kick would contain the power of heaven and earth. When the move, toppling the mountains and overturning the seas, was used, the people who faced this move would feel as if they were really in front of the mountains and seas. It was as if the mountains and seawater would destroy them in an instant. This was not an illusion. When a battle technique was used, it was real. He could recreate the power of heaven and earth. What martial artists cultivated was their own body. They were particular about the world of heaven and earth. The human body was a world, and one's body was one with heaven and earth. When one cultivated to the peak, one's combat strength was practically world-shaking. There was practically no existence that could obliterate their bodies. They were powerful and overbearing to the extreme. From this, it could be seen that Shurtian's blade had already begun to move in the direction of ancient demon cultivators. When the blade was used, it contained the power of heaven and earth. When the tiger soul and the countless feathers formed by the phoenix plume technique collided, there was a terrifying explosion. The blade's light and flames burst out in an instant. In midair, they constantly collided. The surrounding air began to show strange waves of air. The terrifying waves of air crushed everything in the surroundings. You actually have such a powerful battle skill, and your blade technique has reached such a realm. However, it's not like I haven't seen martial cultivators before. No matter how powerful your blade technique is, it can't be compared to my magical arts and magical treasures. Wang Fenger's complexion changed again. She didn't expect that Sakura's blade technique was actually so impressive. However, this made her heart even more intensely murderous. With a flash of light in her hand, a vermilion bead strangely appeared. This bead had balls of flames flowing inside like flowing water. Fire Phoenix Heavenly Pearl Condense. After taking out the fire pearl, she threw it in front of her without hesitation. Her hands quickly formed a spiritual seal. After the spiritual seal was formed, it quickly entered the fire pearl. Ow! Suddenly, a phoenix cry filled with the aura of an emperor rose from the bead. Then, countless crimson flames suddenly spewed out from the bead. These flames were incomparably blazing. As soon as they appeared, the entire air instantly turned abnormally red. It was as if the air was about to burn. The surrounding flowers and plants were ignited on the spot. Once the flames were ignited, the flowers and plants immediately turned into ashes. The ashes completely destroyed them. Not only the top, but even the roots buried deep underground were instantly incinerated. It was no longer possible for there to be a scene of the wild grass can't be burned, and the spring breeze will bring it back to life. It was completely destroyed. After the flames were spat out, they did not spread in all directions. Instead, they quickly gathered around the pearl. In the blink of an eye, countless flames completely enveloped the pearl, and after the flames gathered together, they started tumbling about in a strange manner like flowing water. Under the violent fluctuations, almost in the blink of an eye, a firebird wrapped in flames condensed. The appearance of this firebird was also very different from other birds. Its body naturally exuded the arrogance of a king. It had the head of a chicken, the chin of a swallow, the neck of a snake, the claws of an eagle, the tail of a fish, the back of a turtle, and the feathers of a peacock. Combined together, it was the king of birds, Phoenix. Legend had it that there were 5 major types of phoenixes, namely the scarlet vermilion bird, the green swan, the yellow swanee, the white swan, and the purple swanee. The firebird in front of him was completely wrapped in flames and was completely red. It went without saying that it could be said to be the legendary vermilion bird, but it could also be called the fire phoenix. Once the fire phoenix was formed, it immediately let out a high-pitched cry. Its gaze was fixed on Tion. With a fierce flap of its wings, 2 scarlet tongues of fire instantly burned mercilessly toward Tion like lightning. These flames were even more frightening than the heavenly phoenix fire from before. They were the flames of the vermilion bird. If touched, even a nascent soul cultivator's body would be destroyed in an instant. Even a nascent soul cultivator would find it difficult to escape. Kill. So what if it's a phoenix? So what if it's a vermilion bird? Take my tiger soul's sharp edge. Tion's eyes, unknowingly, had actually emerged traces of blood red. He revealed a cold, killing intent toward the mysterious vermilion bird. With a wave of his tiger soul, he took another step forward. This time, he stepped in the air. Mysterious ripples appeared in the air. His saber moved with him. Each slash carried the power of heaven and earth, and it was incomparably sharp as it slashed toward the vermilion bird formed by the pearl. Roar! At this moment, not only Sakura, but the other monster kings were also fighting with the 9 cultivators. Obviously, they were sneak attacked by that strange, bewildering powder which sealed and suppressed a portion of the monster chi in their body. However, how could the monster race be affected by a little seal? Instead, it aroused their ferocious nature, and they all fought with each other, which was truly incomparably fierce. This was especially true for the Black Ape King. This black giant's strength was simply earth-shattering. He didn't even need to reveal any other techniques. He simply revealed his true form and became as tall as a giant. Claw after claw, he slashed at the cultivators in front of him. Each claw contained an incomparably frightening strength. The female cultivator in front of him was so frightened that she threw out hundreds of Vajra defensive talismans. These defensive talismans were destroyed by a single claw. One by one, they were destroyed like balloons. It was truly terrifying. The other Beast Kings were also incomparably ferocious. They fought against the core formation cultivators and were not at a disadvantage at all. Instead, they relied on their own ferocious strength to gain the upper hand. In addition, Tion and Chi's group all erupted with powerful battle strength at this moment. If they were alone, they wouldn't be able to fight against the core formation cultivators. However, when the 3 of them gathered together and attacked together, they were able to fight with splendor. Their innate battle instincts were all aroused. However, there was one person who didn't move from beginning to end. That was Medusa. Medusa was still standing in the valley, with the vermilion bird by her side. Although her eyes were fixed on a battlefield, she had no intention of making a move. She simply guarded her position with a mirror in her hand. While watching the battle, she also paid attention to the situation in the valley. It could be seen that she was treating herself as the last line of defense. Anyone who wanted to harm Chun, she would have to face her existence. Sister Medusa, these cultivators are really despicable and shameless. Last time, they took advantage of your tribulation. This time, they took advantage of my sister's tribulation. They only know how to do such shameless things. However, that net is so powerful. Although the stinky crow is cold, he's even more powerful than that black guy. He's actually trapped in the net and can't get out until now. What exactly is that net? The vermilion bird widened its eyes and looked around angrily. When it swept its gaze over the large net, it couldn't help but cry out in surprise. In the net, the underworld crow king led the flock of crows to continuously attack the large net, wanting to break it. However, it didn't know what the net was made of, but it was unimaginably tough. It emitted a strange light, and those attacks couldn't damage the Great King technique. For a while, it couldn't break through it all. It was really strange. Don't worry about that. Sister, she has already started the last tribulation. We'll stay here and make sure no one rushes in to disturb her. Look, Big Sister She's original body is starting to appear. Medusa's attention was always on the tribulation in the valley. The battle outside the valley was incomparably fierce, but the heavenly tribulation in the valley would not stop just because you were fighting. The eighth bolt of heavenly tribulation had long since descended. That bolt of heavenly tribulation was truly terrifying. It bombarded the 100-flower formation, and in an instant, an incomparably terrifying power erupted. Lightning and fire filled the sky. Under the mighty heavenly might, the 100-flower formation and the heavenly tribulation were annihilated at the same time. The moment the eighth heavenly tribulation disappeared, the ninth heavenly tribulation descended upon Chun-Shi. Chun-Shi's eyes had closed without anyone noticing. His face was emitting a glittering glow. Right at this moment, a strange crack appeared in the void in front of her. Chapter 249. As soon as the crack appeared, thousands of rainbow-colored rays of light shot out like a tidal wave and spread in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the entire valley was completely covered by the rainbow-colored rays of light. In the rays of light, there was an indescribable, strange fragrance that constantly wafted out. It was extremely peculiar. In the blink of an eye, it reached the noses of all living beings. It was a mysterious fragrance that they had never smelled before. However, everyone who smelled it instantly felt as if their entire body and mind were placed in an incomparably wondrous state. In that instant, the most beautiful things in their memories involuntarily appeared in their minds. Their bodies and minds were intoxicated by it. It was as if their minds were cleansed in an instant. After smelling it, one would feel relaxed and happy. It was as if they were unwilling to wake up. Once they smelled it, they would never forget it for the rest of their lives. What exactly is this fragrance emitting from? Amidst this fragrance, all the demons and cultivators who were fighting could not help but stop at this moment. They could not help but look in the direction of the fragrance. Almost no one blinked their eyes when they saw it. Sakura was no exception. The tiger soul in his hand stopped in midair just like that. His eyes looked towards the valley, and he couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression. What exactly is this flower? I have never seen it before. It's so mysterious, so mystical. Could it be that this is Chun-Shi's original body? A burst of muttering came out from his mouth, but his eyes were fixed on the situation in the valley. After the crack appeared, a flower that emitted rainbow-colored rays of light suddenly appeared. The fragrance that they had never smelled before was emitted from this strange flower. As for this strange flower, it attracted everyone's attention not only because of its fragrance, but because it was an unimaginable existence. This flower was 3 feet tall. There was a flower at the top. The flower had 7 petals, and each petal had a different color: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. The 7 colors competed to shine on the petals, making it exceptionally beautiful. The flower seemed to contain an astonishing beauty. At a glance, one could not help but feel a sense of delight and fondness. This flower seemed to contain the unique aura of all the flowers in the world: nobility, grace, elegance, pride, and so on. If one carefully sensed it, one could clearly feel the aura of all the flowers in the world. It was truly incomparably magical. Moreover, that was not all. What was truly unimaginable about this strange flower was that the 7 petals on the flower were not unchanging, nor were they static. Instead, after the rainbow-colored rays of light bloomed, they all began to wither in an instant. The red petals began to wither, then the orange petals, and in the blink of an eye, they all withered. However, this flower did not completely wither. Instead, every time a petal withered, a new petal would be born. It bloomed, withered, and bloomed again. This cycle was endless and continuous. With a single glance, one would be able to see the flower bloom and wither. New life and wither happened in an instant. Moreover, the moment the petals withered, the life force within the petals seemed to be completely released in an instant, creating an astonishing beauty. This was all the life force of a new life being released in an instant. With the beauty of life blossoming, how astonishing was that? And with this endless cycle, the life force continued to circulate between new life and wither. Not only was it not consumed, it instead became even more powerful. This flower bloomed with an instant of brilliance. The brilliance that bloomed with life was naturally peerlessly beautiful and earth-shattering. It was likely that there was nothing in the world that could compare to it. It could be said to be an instant of youth. Beauty, even if it was only for an instant, would last forever. It's really it. This legendary instant divine flower really exists. The legend is true. There really is such an incredible strange flower in the world. When true Lord Ku Rong, who was hiding in the ancient tree, saw the appearance of this strange flower, his eyes immediately shone with a shocking light. He could not help but feel ecstatic. Nowadays, the demon clan and even the human clan cultivators did not recognize this divine flower. However, who was he? He was a person whose cultivation base reached the heavens after the ancient times. He was the type of ancient cultivator who was closest to the ancient times, so how could he not know? It was precisely because he found some clues and felt that there was such a possibility in his heart that he stayed here and did not leave. He was waiting for this moment to undergo the tribulation. Now, he was finally able to confirm his guess. It was indeed the divine flower that he had predicted. The instant divine flower was also known as the instant of youth. What was the meaning of an instant? It was a short moment, but this flower implied that an instant was the true meaning of eternity. An instant was eternity, and eternity was an instant. Therefore, the petals of the instant divine flower were constantly blooming and withering, blooming with unparalleled beauty. Chun-Shi's body could be said to be the spiritual root of the world. This was because the birth of the instant of youth was something that no one in the world could predict. No one knew what kind of opportunity it was under to be born. Legend had it that in the reincarnation of this strange flower, there was the true meaning of an instant of eternity. If one could comprehend it, their cultivation base would advance by leaps and bounds, and they would have a chance to step into the ranks of the legendary peerless powerhouses. If one swallowed the entire flower, not only would they instantly increase their cultivation base by tens of thousands of years, but they would also have a chance to obtain the heaven-defying divine ability, the instant of youth. Its divine power was so miraculous that even the peerless powerhouses would be tempted. However, fortunately, if one wanted to obtain the miraculous effects, they would have to swallow the instant divine flower before it transformed. Otherwise, once it transformed, the instant divine flower would completely merge with Chun-Shi. The power of the divine flower would also become her power. Whether it was the essence of tens of thousands of years or the heaven-defying divine ability, the instant of youth, they would all be obtained by Chun-Shi. If Chun-Shi had been able to use the power contained in the divine flower from the very beginning, there would not be many people in the world who could be her match. Of course, even after the complete fusion, the power of the divine flower would not be instantly obtained by her. She would still need time to grasp and absorb it. However, the speed at which she could do so would be unimaginably fast. It could take 10 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years. If nothing went wrong, the power of the divine flower would allow her to advance all the way to the magical realm of a great demon or even a demon saint. The heavens are on my side. Know it all, know it all. You probably never dreamed that I would be able to find such a rare treasure like the instant of youth, even though I was severely injured by you. Once I swallow it, not only will my injuries be healed, but I might also have a chance to obtain the legendary heaven-defying divine ability, the instant of youth. At that time, it'll be time for me to settle the score with you. True Lord Ku Rong stared at the divine flower without blinking. Wisps of grayish-white divine light slowly appeared on the surface of his terrifying body that resembled rotten wood. His heart, which had been almost still all this time, began to beat strangely. His chest began to rise and fall continuously. Wisps of life aura began to condense on his body. However, A large amount of life essence from the ancient tree he was in was rapidly pouring in a true Lord Ku Rong's body at an unimaginable speed. The leaves on the ancient tree began to wither at a speed visible to the naked eye. The ancient tree's enormous life essence was rapidly being sucked away. After the instant of youth appeared, it immediately began to approach Chun-Shi's body and appeared in front of her. A strange thing happened. Countless roots immediately swept toward Chun-Shi as if they were alive. Speaking of which, when the roots touched Chun-Shi's body, they did not wrap around her. Instead, they directly entered her body as if they had completely fused with her. That's great. Sister Shi's original body is currently fusing with the body of an elf. Once all the flowers enter her body, she can completely transform and pass the 1-9 demon tribulations. When Medusa saw this, she could not help but reveal a sincere smile. She did not know what Chun-Shi's original body was, but she could see that it was extraordinary in that instant. She also knew that this was Chun-Shi's weakest moment. However, she did not have any thoughts of betrayal. Instead, she was sincerely happy for her. Bang! At this moment, an ancient tree beside Chun-Shi suddenly withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. During this period of withering, the trunk of the tree exploded on the spot. A strange hand that looked like rotten wood and looked like a layer of skin wrapped around a pile of bones suddenly reached out from the tree at lightning speed. This withered hand flickered with a grayish-white divine light and grew inch by inch. In almost the blink of an eye, it became incomparably long and slender. It burst into the shape of a claw and clawed at the divine flower in front of Chun-Shi. "How dare you, thief!" Medusa let out a shrill cry. Her eyes suddenly emitted bursts of colorful light. The aura on her body was abnormally terrifying. "Who dares to hurt my sister? Zhu, or we'll fight it out with you." The vermilion bird cried out fiercely. With a flap of its wings, a layer of crimson fire fiercely emerged from its body. "You're courting death." Di Shitian's eyes suddenly widened in anger. Without hesitation, he spun the tiger soul in his hand. The demonic chi in his body crazily poured into the saber like a tidal wave. A continuous golden saber light that was more than 100 feet long was mixed with the power of heaven and earth. It ferociously slashed at the withered claw with the saber. Wherever it passed, the air in front of them faintly emitted terrifying roars as if it was about to collapse. What happened in this instant was completely out of everyone's expectations. No one would have thought that there would be someone hiding in an ancient tree without being discovered. Instead, at this critical moment, they suddenly interfered and attacked, wanting to take away Chun-Shi's real body. No one was prepared for something like this. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, they could only watch as the withered hand attacked Chun-Shi. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 250. The unforeseen event happened so quickly that it was beyond everyone's expectations. No one would have thought that true Lord Ku Rong, who had ulterior motives, would be hiding at the side at this moment. What was even more unexpected was that he would attack Chun-Shi's main body right away. He was decisive and vicious. One had to know that Chun-Shi's main body had not completely transformed yet. Once it fell into the hands of others, it would be equivalent to completely controlling Chun-Shi's life and death. The severity of the consequences could be seen. This is a good opportunity. Everyone attacked together. When Wang Feng'er saw that Sakura had also followed to block that withered hand, she instantly realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime good opportunity. She shouted out delicately and called out to the other cultivators to launch another attack. Moreover, she even took the lead to drive that vermilion bird and fire phoenix in midair, pulling out a resplendent flame in the air as it swept towards Sakura with a howl. She was actually going to take this opportunity to launch a sneak attack from behind and burn Di Shitian to ashes. Kill! The battle that had stopped temporarily suddenly started again. Moreover, once the battle started, it entered a white-hot situation. All the Monster King's eyes turned red in an instant. Their bodies emitted a violent aura, and they were like crazy demons. Every attack they launched was ferocious and terrifying. Brothers, kill. Kill all these despicable and shameless cultivators. Brother D, block them. You must not let Monster King Shanshi get hurt. The Black Ape King's eyes turned blood red. His two ape claws beat heavily in front of his chest, and an extremely violent aura surged from his body. He roared, "Damned cultivators! I'll show you my divine ability today. Pinch the sun and the moon." Seeing that Shanshi was actually attacked, the Black Ape King flew into a rage. At this moment, he finally did not hold back the innate divine ability that he had not used before, and used it without holding back. One had to know that as a king among monsters, the necessary condition was to have one's own innate divine ability. Without divine ability users, they were ordinary monsters. However, if they had divine abilities, they would be monster kings. Every king's divine ability was extremely mysterious and powerful, and the Black Ape King was no exception. He roared and stretched his right claw forward. In an instant, his ape claw became abnormally different from before. There was an unbelievable power in his palm. It was as if this ape claw was infinitely large and contained infinite power. When it stretched out, even the sun and the moon would be tightly grasped in his hand. He took it down from the sky. The claws contained an earth-shattering power. Everything in front of the ape claws felt as if the space around them had suddenly solidified. They felt as if they were being imprisoned. When they saw the ape claws, it was as if the world was suddenly pressing down on them. He didn't even have the slightest bit of resistance. He could only watch helplessly as the ape's claw got closer and closer to him. In front of the claw was the female cultivator. At this moment, her face was filled with fear and panic. She wanted to dodge, but for some reason, she felt that the space around her had completely froze. No matter what, she could not move at all. She could only watch as the ferocious ape claw expanded in front of her eyes. With a shrill scream, the female cultivator was grabbed by the Black Ape King's claws and held in a death grip. "Kill!" The Black Ape King coldly spat out the word "kill" ruthlessly. He squeezed his hand hard. Immediately, the female cultivator in his hand was crushed into minced meat on the spot. Countless pieces of flesh and blood flew out in all directions. Immortal cultivators cultivated their primordial spirits. How could their physical bodies compare to that of monsters? How could they resist the Black Ape King's killing blow? She was crushed on the spot. Seventh Junior's sister. Sorrowful cries came from the group of cultivators. Seeing the Black Ape King crush a female cultivator to death, they were scared out of their wits. Their eyes were almost spitting fire. They gritted their teeth and threw countless spells and talismans in all directions. Instantly, the entire battlefield entered a white-hot state. Bang! In the valley, the intensity of the battle had reached an unimaginable level. When they saw the withered hand, the only ones who could react in time were Medusa, the vermilion bird, and Deshertion. Medusa's eyes shone brightly. An invisible force burst forth from her eyes. Following her gaze, everything in the space in front of her suddenly lost all vitality and turned into pieces of hard stone. This force quickly landed on the withered hand. A layer of gray stone shell appeared on the withered hand. After the stone shell appeared, it quickly spread to the entire hand, trying to petrify the withered hand. Medusa's eye. This innate ability was extremely terrifying. It could be said to be an extremely terrifying ability. If one was not careful, they would really be petrified. It was almost impossible to restore them. Even if there was a way, it would be difficult to reach the heavens. All along, it could be said to be successful. In the entire southern barbarian lands, there was almost no monster that dared to be rude to her. However, at this moment, it seemed that she could not use its power. It's actually the eye of Medusa. The southern barbarian lands are really blessed by the heavens. They even have Medusa. as expected of the famous treasure land in the ancient times. The power of petrification is indeed powerful. Unfortunately, it's still a little lacking for this true lord. Break! A strange person walked out of the ancient tree. He looked like a piece of rotten wood. There was no expression on his face. He looked like a piece of withered wood. He clicked his tongue and laughed strangely. He saw the stone shell in his hand. A layer of grayish-white light flashed on his arm at high speed. The gray light contained a strong vitality and a terrifying aura of death. When they intertwined, a powerful force exploded. Crack! With a crisp sound, countless cracks strangely appeared on the surface of the stone on the arm. The cracks rapidly spread, and the stone shattered into countless pieces and fell to the ground. However, the withered hand was not damaged at all. It was truly frightening. Watch me burn your ghostly hand with a vermilion flame. 2 crimson flames spurted out from the vermilion bird and wrapped around the withered hand. The power contained in the flames could burn the stone into ashes in an instant. Withering glory, transformation. True Lord Ku Rong shrieked, and the grayish-white light on his arm suddenly changed. The white light disappeared, and the grayish-white light suddenly flourished. When it collided with the vermilion fire, it actually extinguished the fire, just like how fire and water collided. It took a long time to describe, but everything happened in the blink of an eye. True Lord Ku Rong was really extraordinary. Even if he was severely injured, the strength in his body was almost the same as that of a late-stage core formation cultivator. However, he was still able to unleash such a powerful combat strength. His magical powers were immeasurable. It should be known that if an ordinary core formation cultivator encountered Medusa's petrification or the domineering vermilion bird primordial fire, they would be greatly injured. Especially petrification, if they were not careful, they would turn into stone on the spot, and their vitality would be completely extinguished. However, in front of true Lord Ku Rong, it was not effective at all. Roar! The tiger soul blade emitted an astonishing tiger roar. The golden blade light slashed down towards Ku Shou with lightning speed. With the sharpness of the tiger soul, even if it was made of fine iron, it would still be sliced into 2. Oomph! My body has long become incomparably hard. Who can cut it? Wait until I get the instant divine flower, then I'll play with all of you. When true Lord Ku Rong saw the dazzling saber light, he could clearly feel the power of heaven and earth contained in the saber. It had a terrifying power and was unusually sharp. However, the cultivation technique that he cultivated had long cultivated his body to be as tough as a piece of wood. It was as tough as a diamond and was incomparably tough. Looking at the instant divine flower in front of him, he was confident in his body. Chun Shi's speed of merging with his original body was very fast. He was afraid that if he delayed, he would miss the only chance to get the instant divine flower. Therefore, he did not pay much attention to the tiger's soul. He quickly covered his arm with a layer of grayish-white gas, and his claw-like claws appeared in front of the instant divine flower. Soon, the divine flower will be mine soon. True Lord Ku Rong screamed crazily in his heart. A dazzling divine light burst out from his eyes, revealing traces of strong desire and greed. In his mind, he could not help but imagine all kinds of ideas after he got the instant divine flower. When he thought of the happy parts, he could not help but reveal a smug smile. Bang! However, just as his withered hand was about to touch the instant divine flower, Di Shitian's tiger soul, which was filled with boundless power, slashed heavily on his arm. On the spot, a terrifying roar exploded. Following that, a terrifying scene appeared. Countless sparks burst out from the place where the arm collided with the tiger soul's sharp blade. It did not look like an ordinary body of flesh and blood at all. The arm was so tough that it had reached an unbelievable state. However, the tiger soul was a tiger soul after all. Its sharpness was unmatched in the world. It was refined using the indestructible body. In addition, almost half of Di Shitian's demonic vitality was poured into it, causing its sharpness to become even more terrifying. Even Diamond would be cut open by it. In an instant, the tiger's soul still cut into his arm, but did not cut it off. After the tiger's soul passed, a wound could be seen on his arm. Very little blood could be seen on the wound. How dare you injure this true lord? Wait till I get the divine flower. I'll tear you to shreds. Clearly, perfected Lord Ku Rong did not expect Tiger Soul to be that sharp. His expression changed as he spat out those harsh words. However, he did not slow down at all as his target was Chun-Shi's body from the beginning. At this point, his palm was less than a centimeter away from the moment God flower. A ferocious expression appeared on his face as he unceremoniously grabbed at the divine flower. Dawn's true body was about to fall into his hands. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 251. Bang! Just as Medusa, Vermilion Bird, and Deshirtion were unable to stop true Lord Ku Rong's withered claw from reaching out for Chun-Shi's body even after using all their strength. When the withered claw was about to touch the instant divine flower, true Lord Ku Rong could not help but smile faintly. Facing the instant divine flower, even a peerless expert would be tempted. However, it was obvious that he was happy a little too early. Although Chun-Shi was still going through the last inner demon tribulation, his body instinctively felt a strong threat when he was fusing with his body. His body was a divine flower, and no one could say that they completely understood the mystery behind it. Sensing the life-threatening aura, the divine flower instinctively burst forth with a mighty force. On the divine flower, the 7 petals that were constantly blooming and withering suddenly paused. During this pause, the 7 petals suddenly released a shocking divine light at the same time. In an instant, eternal light bloomed. The 7 petals dissipated at the same time, but when they dissipated, the divine light that burst forth strangely fused together to form a 7-colored lotus flower. The lotus flower rotated, and the 7-colored divine light sprinkled down like the divine light of the sun and moon. It landed on the strange, withered claw. Ah! A shrill shriek instantly soared into the sky. True Lord Ku Rong's eyes were filled with disbelief as he stared at his palm. Subsequently, his palm turned into the shape of a saber, and a ruthless look appeared on his face. He swung his saber at his right hand, which he had stretched out, and slashed it down from his shoulder. Poof! True Lord Ku Rong's body had become extremely tough under the endless cycle of 9 changes of life and death. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was an indestructible body. In his flesh and blood, there was both the aura of death and the endless vitality of glory. The cycle of life and death was endless. Therefore, every time he cultivated 9 changes of life and death, the aura of life and death would repeatedly temper his flesh and blood. Therefore, after countless years, his body became as hard as wood, but it was also extremely tough. However, at this moment, he gritted his teeth and chopped off his left arm without hesitation. It was difficult for others to hurt him, but it was easy for him to chop off his arm if he wanted to. Thud! The severed arm fell to the ground, and a strange scene appeared. A strong aura of life burst forth from the severed arm at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, it withered rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the entire arm had turned into a rotten branch and rotten wood. All of his life force dissipated in an instant and returned to the world. Fleeting youth brilliance. Is this the fleeting youth brilliance of the legends? It's fleeting time brilliance. I didn't expect the divine flower's main body to have such a protective means to protect itself. It's a divine flower indeed. True Lord Ku Rong cried out in horror. The moment the divine light landed on his arm, a strong, threatening aura flashed wildly from the bottom of his heart, causing him to chop off his arm without hesitation. The scene in front of him also proved that he did the right thing. If he had not acted decisively, he would not only have lost an arm, but his entire body would have been annihilated and turned into a piece of rotten wood. In his consciousness, he instantly guessed that the divine light must be the legendary, fleeting youth brilliance of the legends. In an instant, it would cause the target's life to completely evaporate and lose his life. Naturally, he would be truly annihilated, and even his spirit would not be left behind. It was terrifying. Haha, good. The stronger you are, the better. After I consume you, I'll definitely gain great benefits. Divine flower. I suppose such a divine flower can only be used once. In that case, you're mine. True Lord Ku Rong was overjoyed. Given his experience, he understood in the blink of an eye that there would not be a second such protective means. After all, it was not controlled by Qin Shi. In other words, the divine flower was already placed in front of him and could be obtained easily. Without thinking, he moved his right hand and tried to grab the divine flower again. If you want to touch Sister Shi, you'll have to ask if Medusa agrees. This change happened in a short moment, but it could not escape the eyes of Di Shirtian and Medusa. However, at this moment, a vermilion bird covered in flames pounced ferociously from behind Di Shirtian, and he had no choice but to use his mind to block it. Medusa made the first move, and her slender legs instantly turned into a seven-colored snake's body. With a swing of her body, she swept toward True Lord Ku Rong without holding back. With a swing of her tail, it turned into thousands of snake shadows and attacked True Lord Ku Rong's body. Spirit Snake Flurry. At this moment, countless snake shadows appeared in the sky, twitching their bodies crazily. Every attack was extremely powerful. Under the snake's body, the air was shaking violently, as if it could collapse at any time. When this move was made, a frenzied aura gushed out crazily. It was as if the space was about to collapse and be annihilated by the countless spirit snakes. That kind of concept caused True Lord Ku Rong's expression to change slightly. How dare a puny core formation realm demon be so presumptuous in front of me? Do you really think that I'm like a tiger that has fallen from the sky just because my cultivation is no longer there? Break. True Lord Ku Rong's expression was cold as he glanced at the instant divine flower. When he saw that the divine flower's fusion speed had suddenly increased, he knew that this was a sign that Chun-Shi was about to overcome the inner demon tribulation. He did not have time to tangle with Medusa. He had been waiting for this opportunity for no less than hundreds of years. Soul-searching claw. His remaining right hand suddenly turned into a claw. With a slight shake, countless sharp claws appeared in the surroundings. With a strong aura of death, they coldly grabbed at the spirit snakes that were waving in the sky. Claw shadows instantly filled the entire sky. The sharp claws swept across the sky, and even the air was torn apart. His physical body was incomparably strong, and he displayed an extremely profound combat skill. Although countless snake shadows attacked, they were all caught by the sharp claws in an instant and torn to pieces on the spot. At the same time, a huge seven-colored snake tail was grabbed by True Lord Ku Rong's right claw and firmly seized. He said coldly, "Although I'm down and out, I'm not to the point where I can let you little demons show off in front of me. Whoever stand in my way will die." As he said that, he exerted force with his right claw, and waves of gray death aura burst out of his claw. He was planning to crush Medusa's tail into pieces with one claw. However, Medusa was not an ordinary person. The demonic primordial chi in her body churned violently and madly poured into her body. Almost in the blink of an eye, a burst of colorful light burst out of her body. Under the light, the densely packed snake scales suddenly glowed with colorful light and became abnormally hard. When the claw grabbed the snake scales, it was so terrifying that bright sparks burst out. Then, with a flash of light, the snake's body suddenly shrank and withdrew from the claw at lightning speed. Bang! Just as True Lord Ku Rong's expression turned serious, and he was about to reach for the divine flower again, the sharp tiger's soul emitted a bright golden saber light that carried the power of heaven and earth. It slashed heavily on his right hand. A soft sound rang out and sparks flew. The sharp tiger soul forcefully cut open a small wound on the terrifying withered hand. However, no blood flowed out from the wound. "It's you again." True Lord Ku Rome was almost driven mad. His hand was so close to touching the divine flower, but it was blocked by D. Shurtion and Medusa again and again. His expression could not help but become unusually ferocious as he roared, "You juniors, if you ruin my plans, I'll skin you alive." He stomped his foot on the ground. Swoosh! With him as the center, countless terrifying vines immediately swept toward D. Shurtion and Medusa like countless spirit snakes. There were so many of them that they almost blotted out the sky. Moreover, each vine seemed to have a life of its own. It was really terrifying. In an instant, D. Shurtion and Medusa were completely engulfed in the endless vines. There were sharp thorns on the vines. Obviously, it would not be a pleasant feeling if they touched it. There should be no one who can stop me now. True Lord Ku Rome glanced coldly at D. Shurtion, who was in the vines. The vines were all 1,000-year-old vines that were unusually tough. No one could walk out of it easily. Not necessarily. Sakura coldly spat out a sentence. Suddenly, a jade zither appeared in front of him. On the jade zither, there were 9 strings. Looking at the vine, without a trace of hesitation, his left hand domineeringly waved on the zither. Ding dong, ding dong. At this moment, he still could not be bothered about the loss of his demon vitality. Waves of demon vitality gushed out of the demon refining cauldron and poured into his fingers. When he waved the zither, he kept pouring it into the zither strings. Immediately, crystal clear sound blades condensed on the zither strings like a tide and shot out in front of him in an instant. The sharpness of the sound blades was immeasurable. Moreover, when the sound blades swept out, they vibrated violently and produced unparalleled power. Wherever the sound blades passed, the 1,000-year-old strange vines were instantly cut into countless pieces. He forcibly cleared a path through the boundless vines. Patter! D. Shurtion moved along with the sound blades and left the sea of vines in the blink of an eye. He appeared in front of True Lord Ku Rome. However, he did not use Tiger Soul immediately. Instead, he smiled coldly. "You said that I can't stop you. Let's see if the heavenly tribulation can stop you." Tribulation transcendence. He glanced at Chun-Shi behind him and saw that Chun-Shi was merging with his original body at a speed visible to the naked eye. He thought to himself, as long as I can hold on for a while, and by some time, Chun-Shi will be able to survive the heavenly tribulation and completely transform. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 252. There are things a man should do and things he shouldn't do. Today, as long as I'm still alive, anyone who wants to hurt Chun-Shi will have to step over my dead body. Although he had not been in contact with Chun-Shi for a long time and had only met her for a short period of time, the things that he had obtained from Chun-Shi could not be measured with money. There was no need to say this out loud, and he would always remember it in his heart. If they had not met, it would have been fine. But now, Chun-Shi was in danger right in front of him. Under such circumstances, if Sakura had the slightest hesitation, how would he have the face to call himself a king among the demons? And how would he have the face to save his mother? Although True Lord Ku Rome's abilities only lasted for a short while, Ouyangming had a clear understanding of them in his mind. He was definitely an ancient cultivator who had survived since ancient times. His physical body was even tougher than a demon's body. Although he did not look like a human or a ghost when he cultivated this technique, the 9 changes of life and death could be considered a peerless mystical technique. His body was as tough as diamond, and even Tiger Soul could not break his body. He had a strange set of combat skills and divine powers, and they would have to spend a lot of effort to break through it with just 1 or 2 moves. Moreover, this was when he was injured. If he was at his peak, he would be a terrifying figure who could kill them with just a finger. They would be courting death if they fought with an old monster who had survived since ancient times with their combat skills. Although Sakura could tell that true Lord Kurong's cultivation base was only comparable to that of a late-stage core formation cultivator, if they were to really fight, Sakura could guess that true Lord Kurong would lose more than he would win. Who knew what other strange tricks true Lord Kurong still had? If he was careless and allowed true Lord Kurong to obtain Shinchi's body, it would be a huge mistake. After thinking about it, Deshirtion could only think of one way. He would use the heavenly tribulation to block the path and stop perfected Lord Kurong for a while. Given the power of the heavenly tribulation, perfected Lord Kurong would probably still be wary of it. As long as he could delay it for a while and wait for Shi to completely merge with his real body, he would definitely be able to turn the situation around when Shi woke up. "You're crazy." A hint of horror flashed through true Lord Kurong's eyes, and he shouted, "You want to attract the heavenly disaster? I'll kill you first today." The withered claw on his hand moved like lightning towards the Sakura's throat, bringing with it a thick, deathly aura. When it reached out, it was silent, but its speed was unimaginably fast, like a shooting star passing by. In a flash, it had already appeared before the Sakura's throat. He could see Deshirtion's level of cultivation clearly. If it were any other time, he wouldn't be surprised even if it was the 19 demonic tribulations. However, it was different now. Once the heavenly tribulation was triggered, given the distance between the two of them, he would definitely be covered by the demonic tribulations. Once the demonic tribulations were triggered, Shi's demonic tribulation had not yet ended. The two heavenly tribulations stacked together. The power of the heavenly tribulation would probably double in an instant. By then, the demonic tribulations would envelop both Deshirtion and Shi at the same time. If he wanted to attack Shi again, he would have to go through the heavenly tribulation. However, what was the heavenly tribulation? It was the majesty of heaven and earth. Given his current strength, he would definitely be affected if he entered. Once he was affected, he would definitely be delayed. By then, he wouldn't have any chance to attack Shi again. It's too late. Deshirtion spat out coldly. With a turn of his feet, he moved his body to the side and raised Tiger Soul in his hand. It appeared at the position where his throat was previously. The sharp blade of Tiger Soul shone with a golden light. It was swallowing and exhaling continuously, looking unusually bright. From his body, he released his powerful aura without any hesitation or reservation. Billowing demonic chi rose like smoke signals, shooting straight into the sky. The purple king mark on his forehead flickered at an astonishing speed. Every time it flickered, an oppressive pressure gushed out like a tidal wave, spreading in all directions. The demon refining cauldron in his demonic abode spun at an unprecedented speed like lightning. Round after round, the speed of the demon refining cauldron reached its peak, forming a crystalline vortex around the jade cauldron. An incomparably tyrannical king's aura gushed out like an avalanche, completely erupting without holding back. The demonic liquid in the demon refining cauldron had become extremely sticky. It was as if it would solidify at any moment. Rumble. Indra's cultivation had already reached the peak of the demonic beast realm. As long as he released his cultivation in Shi, he would be able to attract the demonic tribulation at any time. Now, the demonic tribulation of the Kingdom of Dawn had yet to come into contact with the demonic tribulation of the Kingdom of Dawn. Almost at the same time, the demonic tribulation of the Kingdom of Dawn condensed in the sky and intertwined with the demonic tribulation of the Kingdom of Dawn, forming a huge black demonic tribulation cloud. The size of this tribulation cloud was even larger than when Shi was undergoing the tribulation. Countless lightning bolts flashed crazily within it, intertwining with each other and emitting a bright light and a mighty roar of thunder. As the thunder roared, endless pressure poured down like a tidal wave, continuously pressing down on Deshirtion. When the heavenly tribulation overlapped with the heavenly tribulation, its power was not inferior to any of the 19 heavenly tribulations. Moreover, Chun-Shi was undergoing the last inner demon tribulation and was about to end. The power of the heavenly tribulation naturally did not have much of a deterrent effect on her. Almost all of the pressure fell on Di Shirtion. Thick lightning bolts danced like spiritual snakes, shuttling back and forth in the tribulation cloud. Damn Junior. The mighty pressure completely shrouded the surrounding heavens and earth. All living beings within the tribulation cloud were under this pressure. Perfected Lord Ku Rong was right beside Di Shirtion, so this tyrannical pressure naturally fell on him as well. It felt as if countless pairs of eyes were staring at him. Rumble. He took a step forward, and the tribulation cloud immediately seemed to be pulled by a great force. Countless lightning bolts flashed and gathered together. A bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket, shining with golden light, blasted down from the tribulation cloud with a crack. It was so fast that no one could dodge it, and it hit perfected Lord Ku Rong's shoulder heavily. The tribulation cloud contained mighty heavenly might. This tribulation cloud was the divine thunder of gung metal. Once it fell on his body, the lightning bolts immediately turned into countless sharp golden sabers and golden swords, slashing wildly at perfected Lord Ku Rong's entire body. The situation was no different from being cut into pieces. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's clothes were cut into countless pieces almost immediately. They turned into butterflies and drifted away. Di Shirtion quickly glanced at him and could not help but be amazed. This perfected lord was really amazing. Not only was his face like a block of wood, but his entire body was also like an ancient tree that had grown for countless years. It was the same withered scene. While he was looking at him, a strange thought came to his mind. I wonder if his thing down there has also decayed. This cultivation method is really sick. I didn't expect that I would undergo the tribulation cloud under such circumstances. A hint of mockery appeared at the corner of his mouth. This could be said to be a battle that he had no confidence in winning. The power of the two demonic tribulations had more than doubled out of nowhere. This was not a transformation demonic tribulation, but a 19 heavenly tribulation. Damn, Junior. You've spoiled my plans time and time again. You want to undergo the tribulation cloud? Dream on. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's eyes quickly scanned Chun-Shi's body. This glance immediately made him look sad and indignant. 1/3 of Chun-Shi's original body had been completely integrated, and the remaining parts were being integrated rapidly. His plan to seize Chun-Shi's original body had been completely ruined. He had waited in this valley for hundreds of years, waiting for that moment just now. He had been waiting for the moment before he succeeded in one fell swoop so that he could soar freely in the future. However, he did not expect that a group of juniors that he did not care about in the past would spoil his plans time and time again. Now, he could only watch as his hundreds of years of hope was completely destroyed in front of his eyes. An indescribable grief and indignation directly surged to his head. A light flashed in his hand, and a grayish-white withered wooden staff appeared. As soon as the wooden staff appeared, grayish-white light flickered back and forth on its surface. Withered staff, a withered staff. I originally wanted to let you slowly recuperate for a few thousand years to recover from the damage you suffered back then, but now I have no choice but to use you to teach a group of juniors a lesson. If this had happened back then, we would have lost face if word got out, so today all the lives here will die. Perfected Lord Ku Rong gently stroked the wooden staff, and the corners of his mouth twitched a few times, looking unusually ferocious. An endless aura of death spread wildly throughout the entire valley. Unknowingly, a gray mist had appeared in his eyes. When one looked at it, one would feel a sense of fear and trepidation. Swoosh! At this moment, Chun-Shi's original body in front of him rushed into his body at lightning speed and completely merged with it. At that moment, a beam of 7-colored divine light suddenly burst out from his body and shot into the sky, forming a dazzling divine pillar. Within this divine light, Chunxi's body seemed unusually holy. The unique temperament of countless flowers constantly rose and disappeared at the speed of hundreds of changes in every breath. Her body seemed to have the temperament of any flower, and it also seemed to have been sublimated, revealing a kind of astonishing beauty. In an instant, she bloomed with boundless beauty that no one in the world could compare to. At this moment, she was the most beautiful existence in the world. Vaguely, the shadow of a seven-colored divine flower appeared around her body. It was the appearance of the moment God flower. Its petals continued to wither and regenerate. It kept spinning, and it looked very noble. Unknowingly, her beautiful eyelashes fluttered gently, and her eyelids opened gently. Two rays of seven-colored divine light shot out from her eyes, constantly flowing and changing. It was as if her eyes contained the mysteries of eternity in an instant. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 253. Although there was Deshirtion between them, Chunxi's gaze seemed to be able to fall on true Lord Ku Rong clearly. With a hint of indifference in her eyes, she opened her red lips and said, "Before Chun, she underwent the tribulation, there was a strange omen of danger. At first, I thought it was those foreign cultivators, but I didn't expect that the danger had always been by my side and had been hiding in the ancient tree for hundreds of years. They wanted to seize my real body. Although she was undergoing the tribulation, her real body had always been outside. After the fusion, everything in the valley became clear to her, and she could not help but feel a deep sense of anger. There was actually an enemy hiding by her side for hundreds of years, and the other party's goal was to seize her real body. This was simply a great shame and humiliation. This kind of hatred could almost be raised to the level of being absolutely irreconcilable. TSK. It's a pity that my hundreds of years of waiting were ruined by these juniors. However, I can only take a step back now. Since I can't get your real body, I'll capture you and bring you back. Since you just fused with your real body, I can use the dual cultivation technique to seize half of the essence in your body, which can be used to heal my injuries." True Lord Ku Rong looked coldly at Chunxi. In his eyes, she was a living tonic. If he could get his hands on her, his injuries would be healed. The best situation was naturally to seize Chunxi's real body. That way, with the power of the divine flower, he could heal his injuries that were almost irreparable back then, and even obtain a heaven-defying divine power. However, Deshirtion had stopped him again and again, causing him to fail on the verge of success. What he wanted to do now was to take a step back. He looked up at the sky. The tribulation cloud was black and oppressive. Its range was so large that it emitted a mighty heavenly might that was above Chunxi's 19 demonic tribulations. One could imagine that this demonic tribulation must contain an inestimable and terrifying power. Once the thunder tribulation descended, it would be incomparably terrifying. Crack! This was because the tribulation cloud was triggered when she was undergoing the tribulation, causing the heavenly tribulation's brewing time to become unusually short. Deshirtion originally used the heavenly tribulation to block true Lord Ku Rong for a short while, so that Chunxi could safely undergo the tribulation. When he saw that Chunxi had woken up, he was completely focused on this heavenly tribulation. Although he secretly smiled bitterly at the unusually powerful heavenly tribulation this time, he did not give up, nor did he have any thoughts of giving up. Although the demonic tribulation is strong, it doesn't mean that Deshirtion can't pass it. He was to take a step back to recover his demonics. Was it quickly his demonic chs to recover? Be quickly's to recover twos, to recover to his demon vitality. Of it. And she to recover was to recover his shans to grip to his unknowingly, his other hand had already landed on the storage bag at his waist. Hearing the sound of thunder above his head, he quickly looked up and saw that the tribulation cloud was tumbling and 3 golden gung, Gene, heavenly thunderbolts were striking down. There were 3 people standing in the area of the tribulation cloud. Being guided, the heavenly tribulation would not care if they were innocent. 3 bolts struck down at once, and they were all aimed at Di Shirtian, Chun Shi, and True Lord Ku Rong. Chun Shi, hurry up and leave. This is my demonic tribulation in human form. You'll be attacked if you stay here. Di Shirtian saw the reddish-gold heavenly thunderbolts smashing towards him like a spirit snake. Previously, he had seen True Lord Ku Rong being hit, so he knew that the Gung Jin heavenly thunderbolt was the most terrifying type of attack among the 5 elements heavenly thunderbolts. He shouted and quickly patted his waist. His storage bag flashed, and an aqua-blue flying sword appeared in his hand. Explode! As soon as the flying sword appeared, Di Shirtian quickly infused a stream of demonic vitality into it. Then, with a thought, the flying sword immediately flew towards the heavenly thunderbolt above his head. Bang! The flying sword blocked above his head at lightning speed. Countless sharp sword lights burst out and collided with the Gung Jin heavenly thunderbolt on the spot. The flying sword was a middle-grade magic weapon. However, he did not pity it all. The moment it came into contact with the heavenly thunderbolt, he shouted decisively. The flying sword exploded violently. When it exploded, countless sword lights that were full of destructive power suddenly burst out. A middle-grade magic weapon suddenly exploded and blocked 20% of the heavenly thunderbolt's power on the spot. Bang! Di Shirtian did not care about this at all. 2 more flying swords flew out from his hands. As soon as they came into contact with the heavenly thunderbolt, they exploded on the spot. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 magic weapons exploded in his hands. Each of them was a middle-grade magic weapon. He used the magic weapons to forcibly destroy the first heavenly thunderbolt. Shirtian, the shape-shifting demon tribulation is not to be experienced outside. You have to rush into the tribulation cloud and use your demon body to resist the heavenly thunderbolt. The longer you resist, the better. Once you can't resist, the lightning inside will devour your demon body. During this process, don't resist. Let your physical body disperse and divide into flesh and blood. Then, use your consciousness to control the flesh and blood to devour the heavenly thunderbolt. The more you devour, the better it will be for you in the future. Finally, use your willpower to gather the flesh and blood and reform your physical body. Visualize the form you want to shapeshift, and you will naturally shapeshift. Remember, during this process, you must not lose your consciousness. You must stay awake. Otherwise, you will be bombarded into powder by the heavenly thunderbolt. Chun Shi looked at the heavenly thunderbolt that was bombarding him. There was no worry in his eyes. A 7-colored light flashed in his hand, and a flower basket appeared in front of him. He threw the flower basket over his head. The flower basket was woven from beautiful and delicate flowers. At this moment, it bloomed with all kinds of colors at the same time. It was beautiful beyond compare. There seemed to be a strange suction force in the flower basket. It immediately sucked the heavenly thunderbolt into the flower basket, causing countless golden lightning to burst out from the flower basket. They kept moving around, turning into sharp blades and swords, wanting to destroy the flower basket. However, it was unknown what the flower basket was. It was not damaged at all. Instead, it kept spinning, and there were countless colorful lights flowing back and forth inside. The flower basket spun 9 times in the air. When it stopped again, the heavenly thunderbolt that was originally in the flower basket did not move at all. The flower basket turned into a ray of colorful light and fell back into Chun Shi's hand. A golden flower suddenly appeared in the empty flower basket. The flower had 9 petals, and each petal was different in shape. There were sabers, swords, daggers, and so on. They looked like various weapons. There were golden lightning flashing on it. It was then retracted and disappeared in an instant, refining the heavenly thunderbolt into a magical flower. Could this be the Chichiao basket of the heavenly fairy of 100 flowers in ancient times? Perfected Lord Ku Rong was very knowledgeable. He saw that the flower basket could actually refine the heavenly thunderbolt into a magical flower. Although the magical flower looked very beautiful, it was formed by a heavenly thunderbolt of heptagold. It contained all the power of the heavenly thunderbolt. It was no exaggeration to say that if this flower was thrown out, it would be like throwing out a heavenly thunderbolt of heptagold. It could be called a heptagold thunderbolt flower. However, you're not the heavenly fairy of 100 flowers after all. If this junior wants to pass the tribulation smoothly, he'll have to ask for my permission first. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's expression turned cold, and his body exuded a deathly aura. The heavenly thunderbolt that was bombarding him had long been neutralized by him. Now, he was looking at Di Shirtian and Chun Shi and sneered. I'll leave his place to you. I'm going to pass the tribulation. Di Shirtian had already seen the situation in front of him clearly. He would not be able to resist perfected Lord Ku Rong no matter what. The gap between them was too big. It would not be of much use if he stayed where he was. Moreover, there were tribulation clouds above his head. To him, passing the tribulation was the most important thing. He spat out these words and stomped his right foot on the ground. His entire body shot out like a cannonball and ferociously charged into the tribulation clouds in the sky. Junior, you want to pass the tribulation? It's not that easy in this world. Perfected Lord Ku Rong was really fierce. He moved his feet, and his body was wrapped in a ball of green light. Almost instantly, he appeared beside Di Shirtian. He pointed the wilting staff in his hand. The color of the staff had turned completely gray. The gray color represented the withering of the wilting staff, which was also the power of death. Once hit, not only would it pierce a big hole in the body, the withering power in the staff would also enter the body instantly, causing the vitality in the body to disappear quickly. This attack seemed like an old man in his 70s or 80s waving a walking stick. However, it was as fast as lightning. In almost the blink of an eye, it was behind Di Shirtian. It could pierce through his back with just a poke. How dare you? Chun Shi's face showed a kind of majesty. He moved his hand from the heptagold thunderbolt flower in the heptagold basket and gently plucked a petal. The petal was shaped like a golden saber. He pinched the flower and threw it. It seemed to be able to travel through time and space. It arrived first and appeared in front of the wilting staff. Bang! Countless golden thunderbolts burst out, and the vast power blocked the wooden staff. It could not advance any further. With this momentary block, Di Shirtian's entire body soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he rushed into the tribulation clouds. The tribulation clouds rolled violently. When they opened their eyes, they could no longer see Di Shirtian's figure. He had completely entered the tribulation clouds. As soon as he entered, the vast pressure of the tribulation clouds was immediately reduced by half. The surrounding frozen air also suddenly relaxed. The shape-shifting demon tribulation targeted the tribulation taker. Now that Di Shirtian had entered, the power of the heavenly tribulation also began to target him. It was all condensed inside the tribulation clouds. For a moment, countless golden electric arcs could be seen flashing in the pitch-black tribulation clouds. The surrounding sky was reflected in a golden light, which was abnormally terrifying. Today, none of you can escape. When True Lord Ku Rong saw that Sakura had actually entered the tribulation cloud, he merely smiled coldly. The power of the tribulation cloud had already far exceeded that of an ordinary demonic tribulation of the transformation stage. Even the 19 demonic tribulations could not compare to it. With such power, entering the tribulation cloud would not end well. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 254. The lightning in the tribulation cloud was the gung metal divine lightning with the sharpest and most terrifying attack power in the world. The lightning contained an incomparably terrifying gung metal chi. The gung metal chi was the killing power. When it struck down, it could easily turn into countless sharp and terrifying swords. It also contained the terrifying power of lightning. Thinking about it, it was already extremely difficult to withstand the lightning tribulation under the tribulation cloud. Even true Lord Ku Rong himself had his clothes turned into dust when he was careless. The demonic tribulation in front of him was no ordinary demonic tribulation. The power of the demonic tribulation was far from what an ordinary demonic beast could withstand. If it were Chi Hua, Bai Yu, and the rest who rushed into the tribulation cloud at this time, they would be bombarded by the lightning tribulation in just a few breaths' time. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was terrifying. Even if they had embarked on the path of ancient demonic cultivation, how could their demonic beast bodies withstand such ferocious lightning? Therefore, when true Lord Ku Rong saw that he was unable to deal a heavy blow to Di Shirtin, he felt that he had not taken revenge personally. He only sneered in his heart. Chun Shi believes that Shirtian will definitely not be defeated by this demonic tribulation. As for you, it's time for us to settle the score between us. Chun Shi glanced at the tribulation cloud and coldly glanced at true Lord Ku Rong. His face was full of frost. He reached out his hand and plucked a sword-shaped petal from the gung metal divine lightning flower in the flower basket and pinched it between his fingers. Flower pinching smile. A cold smile. Flower pinching finger. Chun Shi flicked the golden flower in his hand gracefully. Immediately, the golden flower burst forth with golden light. In the light, the golden flower split into two into three into 10,000. In the blink of an eye, it was overwhelming. There were countless sword-shaped golden flowers in front of him. Each petal was incomparably sharp and fluttered in the sky. The golden light connected into one in the sky. Flower pinching smile meant vitality. Those with vitality were endless. Therefore, the number of golden flowers was almost endless. It was truly a terrifying battle technique. In fact, there was only one original body of these thousands of golden flowers. These countless golden flowers were continuously divided from the original sword-shaped golden flower. They were the strongest part of the original sword-shaped golden flower, but they also had flaws. As long as the original golden flower was destroyed, it would be equivalent to destroying the flower-pinching finger. Why would I be afraid of a little girl like you? When true Lord Ku Rong saw the golden flowers that filled the sky, his expression changed. How could he not know how dangerous it was? However, as a true lord, how could he show weakness at this time? A light flashed in his eyes, and he shouted coldly. He raised his withered glory staff and shook it violently, causing it to turn into countless branches. It completely wrapped his body in it. Then, it pointed at the countless golden flowers at lightning speed. With this movement, there was a continuous state of mind within his staff. As long as one's heart did not give up, the staff in his hand would never stop. On the spot, a series of intense, rumbling sounds continuously rang out. Now that more than half of the pressure in the tribulation clouds had been withdrawn, none of them left the valley. They fought under the tribulation clouds. Chun Shi had passed the 19 demonic tribulations, and the inner core in his body had entered the first transformation realm. Obviously, he could compete with a nascent soul realm cultivator and could be called a demon king among the demon clan. No one knew how much true Lord Ku Rong's current strength had dropped. Although he was only at the late stage of the core formation realm, his combat power was definitely not below that of a Yuaning realm cultivator. Moreover, he was even more terrifying. Coupled with his various secret skills, no matter how strong a cultivator was, they could not underestimate him at all. Otherwise, they might be killed at any time. When the battle started, it immediately became unusually fierce. Compared to the battle in the valley, the battle outside the valley could be said to be tragic. Among the 9 cultivators, the Black Ape King showed its power and crushed a female cultivator to death. There were still 8 other cultivators who were core formation realm cultivators and used Dharma treasures. When the battle started, it was extremely tragic. Wounds appeared on the bodies of all the demonic beast kings. However, in terms of ferocity, no one could compare to the demon kings. They had the upper hand. At this time, Wang Finger was brought up by Medusa, and the battle was also very dangerous. However, Di Shirtan, who was in the tribulation clouds at this time, was even more uncomfortable. He fiercely rushed into the tribulation clouds and felt the scene in front of him suddenly change. He suddenly appeared in the middle of countless thunderbolts. Golden thunderclouds were constantly shuttling back and forth, and an incomparably sharp aura burst out from them. As soon as he, an outsider, entered, the countless thunderbolts immediately seemed to have found their target. Crack! With a sound, countless thunderbolts crazily bombarded Di Shirtan, as if they wanted to blow him into countless pieces on the spot and completely turn him into powder. It was really terrifying. It would be strange if an ordinary person saw it and did not faint on the spot. As expected, the black robe on Di Shirtan's body was immediately turned into powder by the thunderbolts and bombarded his body. There was no way to suppress a shrill scream as it roared out from his mouth. Shirtan, the form transformation demon tribulation, is not to be experienced outside. You have to rush into the tribulation clouds and use your demon body to resist the divine thunder. The longer you resist, the better. Once you can't resist, the thunderbolts inside will devour your demon body. During this process, don't resist. Let your physical body disperse and divide into flesh and blood. Then use your consciousness to control the flesh and blood to devour the tribulation lightning outside your body. The more you devour, the better it will be for you in the future. Finally, use your willpower to gather the flesh and blood and reform your physical body. In an instant, the words that Shunshi said before appeared in his mind. You can't rely on external objects to resist. You have to rely on your own physical body. Use the thunderbolts to temper your body. Di Shirtan's eyes burst with incomparable determination. If he wanted to be a demon, he had to suffer the most hardships. He understood this principle and gritted his teeth to endure the terrible pain on his body. In the thunderbolts, although his demon body was strong, there were still countless small wounds on his body. All the muscles on his body were wriggling crazily, and the hair on his head was standing on end. He had really turned into the appearance of a broom. Good. Today, I will borrow the thunderbolts of the heavens to temper my demon body. Roar. With a thought, Di Shirtan's body swayed, and instantly, he returned to his original form. Suddenly, a huge black tiger could be seen standing in the midst of countless thunderbolts. There was a purple king mark on his forehead. This king mark was beating crazily, and his entire body was expanding rapidly. In the blink of an eye, Di Shirtan's body had expanded to a size of 20 feet. Rumble. As his body grew bigger, the tribulation clouds also grew bigger and wrapped him tightly in the tribulation clouds. Bolts of thunderbolts fiercely bombarded him. These bolts of lightning, as soon as they fell on his body, they immediately turned into countless sharp golden blades, constantly slashing his body. It could be said that these blades formed by lightning were abnormally sharp. Even with Di Shirtan's demon body, under these blades, there were densely packed wounds. Blood flowed out from the wounds, and the hair all over his body was standing on end due to the stimulation of the thunderbolts. He was like a large hedgehog. Every time a wound appeared, there would be thunderbolts rushing into his body through the wound, wreaking havoc in his body. Endless pain constantly surged into his heart. This was not a tribulation, but an unimaginable torture. This was because Di Shirtan remembered Shun-Shi's words. He wanted to use his demon body to endure this tribulation for a while longer. The demon body itself contained a strong vitality. Di Shirtan did not hold back and frantically poured the demon essence in his body into every inch of his body, stimulating the enormous strength of his physical body. As soon as a wound was opened on his body by the Gingjin lightning, the demon essence in his body began to continuously stimulate the surrounding flesh, causing the wound to heal quickly. As soon as this wound healed, it was immediately cut open again. This kind of terrifying pain almost continuously swept over him, as if it wanted to completely bury his entire consciousness in this endless pain. Pain, it was really too painful. This was constantly cutting flesh from his body. It was almost no different from being dismembered, but even more terrifying. Not only was it on the outside, but there were also countless thunderbolts madly destroying his body. I won't fall like this. I will definitely be able to hold on. Although he was letting out mournful screams, his eyes revealed an incomparably resolute gaze. He kept his consciousness in an incomparably sober state. It was because he was sober that he felt such pain. However, he knew that if he let his consciousness get lost in this endless pain at this time, what awaited him would definitely be a terrible state of eternal damnation. The heavenly tribulation would not have any thoughts of showing mercy. At this time, it was a battle of willpower. It was a test of one's willpower. There was no unwavering belief. What did one have to climb to the peak and ascend to a higher realm? Willpower, only unyielding and unwavering belief, never bowing to any strong enemy, never yielding in any adversity. Willpower was the foundation of everything. If one gave in to the heavenly tribulation, how could one achieve anything in the future? Even if one did, how could one climb to the peak? The heart in his body was beating wildly, each beat like thunder. It was unknown how many times it beat per second. If it was an ordinary heart, it would probably be shattered into countless pieces on the spot. However, Di Shitian's heart was incomparably strong and contained endless vitality. This was because there was an unparalleled heaven-tier demon residence in his heart. In the demon residence, the demon refining cauldron was madly spinning, bursting forth with endless devouring power, continuously spreading in all directions. Kacha! Kacha! Countless thunderbolts were violently pulsing. Outside, the gung-metal lightning was constantly shuttling back and forth. It was originally meant to bombard Di Shitian, but now it felt the powerful devouring power from the demon refining cauldron. Immediately, as if it had taken a stimulant or had been injected with an adrenaline shot, it erupted with even more powerful lightning and charged ferociously towards him. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chitian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.